Hey everyone, I am so excited to bring you today's episode of Always Almost There. We are going to dive into the 2022 Goose Jam of the Year bracket. Before we dive in, I want to take a minute to tell you about Versio Wellness. Versio functional mushrooms are here to help right now, whether you are gearing up for a show, going to sleep afterwards, or recovering and restoring the day after. Using varieties like lion's mane, chaga, reishi, and more, Versio concentrates the health benefits from these potent fruiting bodies into a supplement with a variety of applications. I take their lion's mane focus blend every morning and really enjoy the boost it gives me throughout the day. Order your Versio now with code STORMSOUND15, which gives you 15% off your order and ships anywhere in the US or Canada. Welcome back to Always Almost There, a Goose podcast on Storm Sound and Osiris Media. Hello, everybody. It's 2023. We're back. This is episode 10 of Always Almost There, I believe, and it's bracket season.
Bracket season.
It's
Hype
bracket
for
season.
brackets.
It's bracket season. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Brian, aka Jive Goose.
I'm Auntie Kev.
I'm Danny Rosewoods.
And I'm Neal.
And we're here. This is like, you know, our most, I think this is our most exciting episode that we like ever do. You know, like, you know, I know people look forward to this one. The bracket is an exciting time, and we made a bracket. You know, we've got lots to talk about. Obviously, this episode, we are first going to outline how the Jam of the Year 2022 tournament is going to work for those of you who need a refresher or have not gotten involved before. Anybody who wants to read said information instead of hearing us read it to you, head over to ryanstorm.substack.com, where there is a whole nice long blog post and also links to Nugs playlists and other ways to get involved. But we're very excited to be here.
It's our Christmas morning of Always Almost There podcasting.
Seriously.
And what's the number that we've been doing this? The annual...
Well, this is the third annual Goose Jam of the Year bracket, the second annual of the five of us running it, and the first annual Always Almost There Goose Jam of the Year bracket, because last year at this time,
A lot of milestones.
we were just five guys sitting around talking about Goose. Now we're five guys sitting around talking about Goose under the guise of a podcast.
It's more official.
So that's right. This is our 1 year anniversary of recording, roughly.
Roughly,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's exciting stuff. Yeah. Happy birthday to us. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. For those of you listening, whether you're listening on Monday morning or Saturday night, raise a glass to 1 year of Always Almost There.
It could be a good coffee.
It could be a good coffee. A glass, a cup, a bottle, if you will.
It could be a dry January, low alcohol IPA.
Is that what you've got this evening?
That's what I'm drinking.
Nice. Very
Could be
nice.
a hard kombucha. I mean, could be anything, really.
I'm currently in Canada, so I do not have hard kombuchas, unfortunately. So,
Have a drink.
for those of you who may not have seen or weren't involved in the seeding process, this year we decided to open the seeding process to the bracket up to the whole community, anybody who wanted to get involved instead of just the five of us. And we are very, very excited to have 56 people who submitted rankings of their top jams of the year. Thank you so much to all those who got involved. Across those 56 rankings, there were 200 unique jams selected, which is pretty cool, from 72 different shows, which is almost every single show of the year was represented in the selections. And we wish we could have included all 200 in the bracket, but of course, 64.
We had a certain few special contributors, if you may, as well.
And by few, you mean one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to leave you that information to
Yes,
share.
well,
yeah.
shout out to Peter Onspach
For getting involved.
for getting involved in the seeding process. We really appreciate his input, and we were happy to see some of his picks lining up with some of our opinions. I think that means we're doing something right.
Isn't that private? I mean, is there a privacy issue with?
There were no signed disclosure statements
Okay.
to participate in the bracket this year, but it's definitely something we can work towards for next year.
We're not revealing Peter's rankings. That's
fair.
That's where we draw the line. Nobody's
That's fair.
rankings are being publicized, except for obviously if you choose to share yours.
Hours.
which we have. We really appreciate him getting involved. Now, on to a little bit about how this year's tournament is going to work. Obviously, much like a March Madness bracket, there are 64 jams in the bracket split into 4 regions. This year, we decided to name them after 4 tracks from the TED Tapes album that we hope they play that they have not played yet. So those 4 regions are Camino, Europa, Nebula, and Forest.
We hope for Moon too, but that's okay.
We didn't want to have 2 moon-related region names, so I think it made sense to go Europa over that. But beginning on Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, at noon Eastern Time, on the @AAT GoosePod Twitter account, our Twitter account, we will be running polls, 1 poll every day for the duration of the bracket to decide who wins each matchup. Now, this year, in an effort to expedite the competition a little bit, because we know there were a lot of people last year who were like, oh my God, it's like mid-March and we're still going. Like, is it going to be over anytime soon? For the first round of the tournament, we will be doing 2 polls each day. Those will be threaded together. So look for those. Make sure you vote in both for the first round. We will be posting more, obviously, reminders and information as it goes on. Now, other twist, some of you may remember last year, we introduced a new wrinkle to the competition, which was our bracket prediction challenge, our Jam of the Year bracket challenge. So just like in a pool for the March Madness basketball tournament, everybody will have an opportunity to fill out a complete bracket before the matchups begin. You can find a link to that at ryanstorm.substack.com. You will earn points for each winner that you accurately predict. Matchups in the first round are worth 1 point each. Second round are worth 2. Sweet 16 are worth 4. Elite 8 are worth 5. Final 4 are worth 6. Semifinals are worth 8. And guessing the champion will earn you 10 points. Along with priceless bragging rights. Priceless.
Oh, we know about those.
Yes. Oh, we do. The top point scorers will receive some awesome prizes, which we will be revealing very soon. Maybe in this episode. We'll see. We'll see how we feel by the end. But there are some really exciting prizes this year, so make sure you get involved. The deadline to submit your bracket challenge picks is 11:59 p.m. Eastern on Monday, January 16th, so the day before voting begins. Those are open now. Go head over and enter those. Well, who's ready to go through this bracket?
Let's do it.
I'm ready to go through this bracket. But I think you bring up a valid point. Like, if people look at this and they say, why wasn't my favorite jam included? What they should do is they should send a DM to @902Vickers and say,
Yes.
this is all your fault.
Yes.
I think that's what should be done.
Yes. Tell Vickers our official complaint hotline. Thank you to
HR.
Vickers for
DMs are
volunteering
open.
for that.
Yeah.
Yes, his DMs are open. You can criticize him for not putting your favorite jam in, for putting a fish jam over a goose video, and so forth. So our complaint hotline is open at 902Vickers. Now, let's dive in here. Let's begin. We're going to start in the top left of the bracket. We are going to be going clockwise around by region in order of how the matchups are going to play out in the polls in real time. So, beginning, our first matchup of the bracket is going to be the June 10th All I Need from Legend Valley at a 1 seed against the Goosemas Tumble at a 16 seed. I mean, obviously it's a 1-16 matchup, so pretty much a blowout, but,
Starting off in style, though.
Yeah, the number 1 overall seeded jam, the Legend Valley All I Need. I was personally expecting the Rally Motivon or the San Francisco Wisteria to end up at number 1 overall, but this was pretty much a lock for a 1 seed as well. It's going to do some serious damage on this bracket for sure.
It's good,
Yeah,
jam.
man. It's this one's got the darkness and it's got a lot of it. So I think folks really like it. I think the first jam in this All I Need is what got it into this bracket, and it's got it in the position that it's in. And second jam also cool.
It has a second jam.
It does have a second jam.
How cool is that?
Yeah, but the second
nowadays.
jam kind of more
Less
is a lead
cool.
into the next song. Yeah, it's way less cool. But
It's extended nights.
yeah, and the tumble that it's matched up against, not too bad. It's a pretty decent tumble. Has some nice Peter piano driving thing that he was doing at Goosemas, which we've talked about a bunch on this podcast. And Rick's kind of new tone and approach, which is awesome. I mean, if I'm picking a tumble to come in at a 16 seed, though, I want Peach Tumble in this bracket. It's a shame, but this is the tumble that we
pour
get.
one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There were better 16 seed tumbles. Just
Well, this is
not as
evidence
high
that
as-
we didn't tamper with the seating. I don't
Nope.
think any of us had this tumble ranked in our top 64, and here it is.
Here it is.
Here it
It's
is.
not peach tumble, but
It's not Peach Tumble, but it's pretty good, and it gets beat by the Legend Valley All I Need pretty handily, I think. So,
Hmm.
next matchup, we've got speaking of Peach, we've got the Arrow from Peach at an 8 seed against the Asheville Redbird at number 9 seed. This is
Good
obviously
matchup.
a much closer matchup going from 116 to 8-9. This could go either way. I'm really excited to see how this voting plays out. I did some listening when I was filling out my personal bracket. I'm going Redbird here. I'm just such a sucker for that final synth build in that last section of the Ashbird.
I like Arrow in this matchup. This Arrow is a killer Arrow.
You like
And-
peach?
I do like Peach. I mean,
I'm
I
with
think
you,
it's a
man.
really good. That's a good set of music right there. I mean, if you want to put
Yeah,
on
it
something
is,
to listen
it
all
is.
the way through,
Very listenable.
that's a good one to do it. I don't know, man. There's a
good
lot of
Arrow.
Redbirds this year. It's like hard to get really excited about all of the Redbirds. I am excited about this Arrow because it stands out significantly so from the rest of the Arrows this year. I'm picking Arrow in this matchup.
And I would say last year too, like the arrows from last year, the 20, 25 minute, 28-minute arrows that, went on for days but didn't go anywhere. This Peach one is not that.
Great
And I do also agree that it was incredibly close in terms of choosing. But the one that I find myself going back to listen to again is the Arrow, not that Redbird. So that's why I chose Arrow.
Yeah, I'm with you on Arrow here as well. Pretty much for everything you said, Neil. And yeah, I've never really been much of an Ashbird guy, to be honest.
Lame.
I've got Nashbird as my kind of number 2 Redbird in the bracket. So yeah, I'm all about the Arrow here as well.
I went Redbird, so it's 3-2. We'll see.
I'm not alone. Yes.
Hey, and that's the way it should be. Yeah, this is an
Yeah.
8-9. This is a hell of a matchup. These are two really, really good jams.
Yeah, and this is day 1 of the bracket.
Yeah, this is day 1, and you get a lot of really good stuff to listen to on day 1, indicative of the kind of year this band has had. But I'm really excited to see what people have to say about this particular matchup. I think Ashbird gets really hyped up because 1, people really like it a lot. 2, it's been named. The Ashbird. And we've got a few of those in this bracket. So that might
the Pero. The Peach Arrow.
Excuse me?
Oh, yeah. I thought I was like
Right.
you were saying a word that like I didn't know, and I was confused for a second.
Me
but
too.
Yeah,
All right,
that
ignore
was
me.
terrible.
All right.
Um,
Moving on. Next matchup here, we've got the Goosemas Wisteria coming in at a 5 seed up against the DC Pancakes at a 12 seed. This is a matchup. I was in attendance for both of these jams. Fun fact. And I'm going to go on and on about DC a little bit later in the episode, and by that point, I'll go on for a while. But talking about this Pancakes is a really, really phenomenal jam. Again, it's such a testament as I'm looking through these brackets. Or as I'm looking through these matchups and I see where things are seated, like the fact that this jam winds up at a 12 seed is absolutely mind-boggling. It's just relentless. They dropped it at the end of a second set that, didn't think we were getting a huge jam. That's not important to this Jam of the Year bracket, but really, really good. This actually reminds me a lot of the Goosemas Tumble, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the bracket. Great breakdown. I wish teases at the end, but in the end, I got to go with the Goosemas Wisteria here. From that initial groove, Peter on the organ, Peter on the vintage vibe, Trevor and him locking in on that kind of descending lick thing, the group hug jam. It's so good.
Yeah. So this Pancakes is actually a 12 seed in my personal ranking. So it's kind of right. I think it's kind of right where it should be. And if anything, I think this Wisteria is slightly overrated. coming in, but
Ooh.
I mean, I'll take this wisteria though. I think I had it as a 6, but yeah, I'll take this wisteria over the pancakes. Yeah, this pancakes kind of slid down my stack throughout the year. Honestly, the kind of more the more I listen to it, and some of the later pancakes. So yeah, but I think this one's actually going to be really close. I think there's a lot of love out there for this pancakes. So much like the Ashbird, I think there's kind of an established reputation of this jam, and I think that's going to carry it maybe for a lot of the kind of maybe more casual folks, fans out there.
Got to please the casual listeners too.
Mhm.
That's what
Yeah,
this band does.
I could see this pancakes taking this wisteria. I mean, this wisteria is a good wisteria. I don't know if it's deserving of the seed it ended up with, but the thing that makes this wisteria good is actually the group hug jam. The post group hug jam is like it's really what knocks this thing out of the park, and that's only a handful of minutes. Whereas I think with the DC pancakes, you get like a pretty long and interesting jam throughout. So yeah, I don't know. I am picking Wisteria in this, but it is an interesting matchup just on the quality of the two jams. They're both very, very good.
Mhm.
Same for me here. I ended up picking Wisteria. They're very close in terms of quality in regards to the jam. So again, it's coin flip. Lots of Wisteria represented in the bracket this year. It's just another great one.
Yeah,
No kidding.
starting it off with a agreed. Yeah, I agree, Kevin, right where you are with Wisteria Song of the Year for me. Great version here, getting us kicked off. Some other that we like more, I like more, but it'll be a good matchup. So yeah, on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I'm noticing here, I'm just glancing at it, and we'll talk about it as we go on in the bracket, but I feel like there's a lot more representation from the first half of the year than there is the second half. We've talked about this a lot, I think kind of more off the pod, but looking at the volume of excellent jams in this bracket from winter, spring, June versus August through December, there's a pretty big imbalance there, which is interesting, looking at how the year played out.
I think
Moving
it's a
into
huge imbalance.
Yeah, huge, staggering, if you will.
Huge.
Not to
And-
say that the latter half of the year doesn't have its moments. I think all of it, and I'm sure a lot of people listening might go, well, hey, my favorite show was X, Y, and Z, Goose, Dylan, Goosemas, whatever. So, but yeah, quality wise, I think one more step up too.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is, I think when we had done our seating, just like the five of us, and we were talking about it, there were actually even more jams from the beginning of the year than what ended up in the bracket after crowd seating. And I think about this a lot because I think there is a lot of really high quality jams in the beginning of the year. And I think it has a lot to do with just the way that they were touring at the beginning of the year, whereas many, many, many consecutive dates. And when they do that, they find amazing places. And so I think that's why we had so many more jams from the beginning of the year. And, I'm excited to see them again do kind of long stretches of touring, which we're going to see, a 5-night run and then a huge tour right after that. So, yeah, man, it's big jams are coming. I think there are great jams in the last half of this, but yeah, you're going to have a higher concentration in the beginning just because of those consecutive dates played.
For sure. Speaking of large jam from the beginning of the year, next up we've got the Royal Oak Rosewood, the longest jam in Goose history, at a 4 seed up against the Rally Drive from June 15th at a 13 seed. This is a really excellent drive. Honestly, I really like it. I think it's kind of flown under the radar. I'm happy it made it onto the bracket at a 13 seed. And while this Rosewood is really good and is really long, I don't have it as high as a lot of people. I think, it maybe should have been a 6 or a 7 seed, I think, on my list. But it wins this matchup, and I have it losing to the Goosemas Wisteria in the next round. But we'll see how it plays out.
Same.
So I've written a letter to
Yeah.
the seating committee on this
Oh,
because I feel like there's a technicality here because this Rosewood is more than one song, And I'm going to
Okay,
die
you're
on that
still.
hill. I'm going to
Neil,
die on
Dude.
that hill.
It's been 9 months.
There is a distinct Echo of a Rose inside
Get over
of
your
this.
internet shame, man.
This is
Neil,
not a
okay.
38-minute
For all of
So-
us, please.
So, for those of you who may not know the story behind this, Neal was in charge of the Fantasy Goose set list output during the Royal Oak show in March. And when they went into this Echo Jam in the Rosewood,
Tease.
Neal posted Echo of a Rose, but they did not sing the song and left it as just a jam inside the Rosewood. And Neal has borne some shame and has really not liked this jam ever since. So Neal, your complaint has been denied. Talk to Vickers, but
Yeah. There's a distinct Echo of a Rose jam inside of this, though. Like all kidding aside, there is a distinct Echo of a Rose jam in this.
yes,
So it's not just Rosewood. So I don't know. When I think about this as the longest jam they've ever played, it loses points for me. Like I'm moving on to some other longest jam.
What does the band think? Did the band in their notes say that Echo Over Rose was played, Neil?
What about Jive Goose? Because he's
What
the
about
official.
Jive Goose on the official Jive Goose
I mean,
account?
you guys can say whatever you want.
what about .net? Where does it say?
That's literally everybody in this podcast.
Yeah, the Fantasy Goose account was actually the only place it was ever.
Okay.
Um,
Just so everybody is on the same page, I actually selected this Rosewood to move on just out of spite for Neil. That's why I selected.
Yeah, I picked it once.
Yeah, I also picked this Rosewood. It is a good jam. But I guess the point I'm trying to make, all the kidding aside about Fantasy Goose and all of the things that I did and the story behind that, it makes this jam less exciting to me that there's another song in the middle of it, which I think we can all say, whether or not they actually played the song, so you read it on a set list, it's definitely in there. But
What's the jam that has the Creatures jam in it?
That's the Cleveland Tumble.
Yeah,
Cleveland
see,
Tumble, yep.
So I'm more on board with that kind of perspective with the Tumble than I am for this Rosewood, because I think this Rosewood goes to so many different places that, you know what I mean? It's that Echo Jam is kind of a smaller part of it, really, over the whole. But anyway, I took the Rosewood here too. I don't know how it's a 4 seed. I had it as a 9, but I'm still taking it over this drive.
This was also, I believe, the first drive where they started messing with the way they're jamming out the song. This rally drive, they took it from that short little solo that Rick does normally right before the O's. They just jammed that part out, which is pretty cool. This is a pretty unique jam, if I remember correctly, and it's good. You should go back to it if you hadn't in a while.
Listen to the jams.
Yes.
Say it.
Listen to the jams. We will repeat that a lot. Next matchup, we've got the St. Louis This Old Sea from October 4th at a 6 seed up against the Radio City Tracadia at an 11 seed. I love the Tracadia as much as anyone else. It's really good because it's Trey and Arcadia, and it's just awesome. But as a jam on its own, I don't think it really belongs in the bracket. I definitely don't think it belongs as high as an 11 seed. And
It's got Trey bias.
Yeah. It for sure has Trey bias, but this C easily, demolishes it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I agree. I don't think it should be close. Now, in my bracket challenge, I might pick the Arcadia because
Just because Trey.
because I mean, look in the bracket challenge. I mean, you're predicting the outcome of the vote, and so through that lens, I might be going Arcadia here just because a lot of people put it in here. I don't know that any of us did, but a lot of people put it in here. That means there's a lot of love for it, and you're right. I mean, there is going to be Trey bias, and so. I think this might be one of those places where we see that come through in the vote. This Old Sea comes from that stretch of shows where there just felt like there just wasn't as much hype about everything in the moment. And so it'll be interesting. I think if people go back and listen to these and did an A/B, it'd be hard to not choose the C, but we know how these voters vote. So I'm still on the fence on what I'm going to have in my bracket challenge.
I still have more faith in the voters than I did a year ago because of how the matches with the LMAG and the Factory Fictions went for the 2021 bracket. I was super worried about those, but hopefully my faith isn't misplaced here.
I mean, Trey playing in Arcadia is great, and I can
Yeah.
see
Oh,
how
yeah.
folks could really get excited about that. Like, let's not
I
dismiss
get
this
really
jam.
excited about it.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is like my second favorite piece of improv from those Radio City shows, and I enjoyed the hell out of this. Even though Trey kind of murdered the lyrics a little bit in this, it's pretty cool. But I mean, this old C, always a banger, and when they play it, it's fantastic. This is yet another fantastic version. This one shouldn't be close if folks are listening to these jams and kind of thinking about, you know, not thinking about, I guess, the fact that like Trey's out there and doing Trey things in an Arcadia, which is pretty amazing. But
So yeah, I love Trey as much as the next guy does or girl does. More so when he's playing with Dave Matthews, but that's neither here nor there. This wasn't particularly hard for me. I pick C.
He's no Tim Reynolds, but
He's no Tim Reynolds, but he's taller.
Has Trey ever played at Luther College?
Ryan's taller than Tim Reynolds.
Barely.
Hey, you know what? Just because you're really tall doesn't mean you get to
Hey,
talk
Ryan's
down
tall,
to
okay.
like relatively average height people.
DDUFC versus.
For those of you who don't know, Jive Goose and Auntie Kev are both exceptionally tall individuals. All right, next matchup, we've got what I feel has been a kind of under the radar jam, and the one that I'm happy to see ranked up this high. I know that all five of us love the Portland Echo from February 3rd at a 3 seed up against the Cincinnati Redbird at a 14 seed. This Echo, maybe it's not as under the radar. I think I just feel like I don't really see much chatter about it happening regularly. I know we have been very high on this jam. I think it's been in everybody's top 10 the whole year, even top 5 for some of us. This is a really, really amazing jam. This is like, that classic winter 2022, Trevor leading the band into the darkness. I believe this is also the most recent Echo with. And for those of you who may be confused, check the playlist for reference. We are talking about the second part of the Echo from February 3rd. So there is the 10-minute first segment, and then there's, I believe, a couple of songs, Whales, Dr. Darkness, something like that. And then they go back into Echo and play 20 minutes of a second jam. This is what we were talking about. This is the excellence.
the interesting thing about this Echo, if we're gonna like have analogies for songs, like I acknowledge that this Echo is excellent improv, and I've ranked it accordingly. We talked about this the other day a little bit, but it's like a James Joyce novel of a jam, which is like you get through it. It's incredibly challenging. You acknowledge its greatness, but you don't find yourself going back for rereads too much. At least this is how I feel about this jam, and I think that's why there's not that much chatter. Like, I think something like Pittsburgh, you go back to and listen to a ton. I think we've all listened to that one a ton. Or like, what's another good example?
The DC
like
Wisteria.
Yeah, or DC Wisteria, Atlanta Drip. Like, there's just jams that you find yourself really excited about and going back to. This one I don't go back to that much, but I do acknowledge that it is a kick-ass jam. And, I mean, handily wins here. No problem at all.
Yeah, this is a 1 seed for me, and I actually, I go back to this one a lot, and in fact, but I know what you mean about just kind of that. There's almost like a fatigue, with some of these jams. Don't listen to 3-9 Rosewood a lot. You know what I mean?
No,
but
that's an essay.
but I would even say, like Rally Madavan. A lot of times feels like a big commitment for me. This Echo doesn't feel like that to me. I actually go through it a lot, and I think I love the kind of dark. It's almost, I think at one point we were kind of calling this one of the kind of 94 Fish. Hate to say that on one hand, but that it is what it sounds like to me. Some really cool stuff with the sirens and with the stuff Trevor's doing, and how just kind of completely disassembled it gets. But yeah, so I'm a huge fan. And yeah, this Redbird, it's good. Maybe one of the best jams to come out of the New Year's run. But it's
the best jam in my opinion.
Overmatched here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think this is the point where I talk about the Reba Jam. Can I talk about
Reba
the Reba
Light?
Jam?
Talk about the Reba Jam, Neal.
And the Redbird. I meant to say this part when I was talking before, but this Redbird, very, very similar to the Westville Redbird, has
Mhm.
kind of that middle section that sounds a lot like what folks call the Reba Jam, which is the jam that precedes Cross-Eyed and Painless. And the interesting thing is, we actually get a drawn out version of this jam in this song, and we didn't get a drawn out version of that jam in Cross-Eyed and Painless when they played it at Fox, which we're going to talk about later. But I don't know, just kind of an interesting little tidbit there. If you're left wanting after listening to that Cross-Eyed and Painless for more of that intro jam, go
Hit
listen to
this one.
this. Go listen to this. You're going to get it there.
Yeah. We move. Next matchup, we've got at a 7 seed, the Philadelphia All I Need from March 12th, up against the Richmond Rosewood at a 10 seed. Fun fact about the Richmond show that I keep forgetting, they played a Chick Corea song. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I keep forgetting they played Spain, and then I remember and I listen to it. But that's unrelated to this matchup. This Rosewood is really good, and this All I Need is also really good. There are a lot of 7-10 matchups, and honestly 5-12 matchups in this bracket that could go either way. They're much closer than the seeding would indicate. That's why we urge everybody, listen to the jams. Don't just vote based on seeding. But I go All I Need here. There's something about the relentlessness of this jam where they're just like flowing back and forth between major and minor key, just going through it. And obviously these huge All I Needs from the first half of the year. This is one of my favorites. We'll talk about my favorite a little bit later, but man, it's good.
Hell of a way to open a show too. That was a
Yeah.
fun night, man. Woo.
Some would say best show of the year.
My favorite show of the year that I attended and listened to.
Yeah, this All I Need probably might be my most listened to jam out of this whole entire bracket, believe it or not. And I don't know why. It just I will pull up Nugs and I just put this on more often than I do any other jam. It's really, really good.
It
I
just
actually
feels good.
this doesn't feel that close to me. This Rosewood has a pretty cool section to it, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think there are like similar jams from this part of the tour in the fall that like
Absolutely.
do that thing better. So I don't know. This All I Need is it's a cut above. I don't know. I like it.
I probably have this one a little bit closer. I don't think either of these jams are incredible from an improv standpoint. Kind of like you said. I mean, the All I Need is just a lot of energy and it's really good. And the Rosewood kind of goes the other direction and it's really good. It's got a really beautiful jam. It actually does have a pretty fire first jam as well. Maybe they went harder on this Rosewood than maybe any other one I've heard. Just in kind of the first proper jam. So yeah, this one's close for me, but I'll probably go with the All I Need too. And sometimes it's hard with as these jams. As you get these matchups that are kind of close when you're trying to hone in on the jam itself, I think then when it becomes a little bit more of a toss up, maybe the natural inclination then is to choose the one that is from the song that you like better. And in this case, certainly I would lean All I Need. So that's probably where I'll go.
I ended up doing that a bunch of times. If it was like a coin flip, I ended up going with the song that I liked personally over the other one. The All I Need here is what I ended up with. It was just an unbelievable week of shows for these guys. They were locked in all over the place. Royal Oak, Cleveland, and then the 2 shows in Philly. Just a lot of good stuff coming out of that little run right there. Ended up picking out All I Need.
Same.
Fun fact, Philly 312 is the show with the most representation in the bracket with 4 jams.
Because the best show of the year.
Yeah, there are a number with 3, but this is the only show with 4 in the bracket. So that's
right,
pretty
chap.
cool.
Show of the year.
Some would say
Show of
it's
the year.
objectively the best show of the year.
I think we would agree with said people. Though, actually, funny thing is, if we had our way, there wouldn't be 4 jams from Philly in the bracket. But we will get to that.
Yeah.
Final matchup of the Camino region, we've got the Lewiston Art Park Montavon from June 8th at a 15 seed up against the Mighty Nash Cakes from March 4th at a 2 seed. This is obviously not close. This is the Nash Cakes we're talking about here. This one's going against the Legend Valley All I Need for this region for sure. That'll be a toughie.
It actually kind of makes me sad because it's a good Madhavan. I like to listen to it.
I was getting there. It's a great Madhavan. You know, I was at this show. Great way to open up the second set. You know, really, really great jam. I'd say one of the better Madhavans of the year. Interestingly enough, to be seated so low, but yeah, unfortunately, there are just too many good jams this year. But I would recommend going back to this one for sure.
This matchup is kind of what makes me love bracket season, because folks are going to get an opportunity to go back and listen to this Madhavan. Hopefully they go back and listen to this Madhavan, because it is a killer Madhavan. This one breaks my heart in the first round, because I would like to listen to this one a little bit more, or have an excuse to listen to this one a little bit more.
Yeah.
But this Pancakes is, I mean, we could spend a half an hour talking about this Pancakes. It's
Nash
an
cakes, baby.
incredible jam. And there's so much to digest in this jam. It's just not even close. It's such a good Pancakes. The best Pancakes.
Shout out to friend of the pod, Michael Silverstone, who's betting his dinner date on this jam this year. I think it's a better bet than his bet on the Terminal 5 Lookout Cleveland from last year.
So I actually think this Madhavan is a little bit underrated here. I probably would have had it as a 10 seed, but I did have 3 Madhavans higher than this one at the same time. So So I'm not going to shed a tear. This is the best Pancakes of all time, and it will advance easily.
Since its debut a year ago.
Yeah, we like shedding tears to Madhavan, but
Yeah,
this
no
one.
Madhavan tears.
Not this one.
Okay, so let's dig into the Europa region next, which has, I think, what a lot of us have been calling the jam of the year, the
Many
San
people are
Francisco
saying
Wisteria, as the 1 seed, going up against the recently played Boulder Cross-Eyed and Painless. So, you know, again, 116. I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. I think that this Wisteria is gonna go deep, as they say. And so yeah, I know Neal kind of referenced this Cross-Eyed earlier. Neal, Ryan and I were at that show, and yeah, we all kind of just were a little bit let down by the lack of the pre-jam, the pre-Cross-Eyed jam. But really nice jam. I mean, probably one of the jams in the moment that I liked the most, maybe just behind the Echo. But yeah, I mean, there's no question of who comes out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, this Wisteria is so good. We've done so much talking about this Wisteria over the course of the year, because this was played last January. It's almost a year old.
That's crazy.
And yeah, that is bananas, actually, if you think about it. I mean, they came out the gate in January, played their best jam of the year, and then played another 84 shows after that.
This is the 5th show of the year.
Yeah.
Like they did Tempe, San Diego, LA, 2 nights in San Francisco. And this was in the first set of the second night. Like what?
Yeah. It's actually kind of fitting that we have one from very early as a 1 seed matching up against a 16 seed played at one of the very last shows of the year. And this one isn't close. I was really excited about this Cross-Eyed in the moment, but that's not what we're doing here on the bracket. So, but it was killer.
The bracket.
I've been really wanting to hear a Cross-Eyed since I missed the Cross-Eyed that they played in September at South Farms that I couldn't make it to because COVID travel restrictions wouldn't allow me to drive to that South Farm show.
Wow.
But yeah. So I finally got it. And there it is. Doesn't even matter. Not even part of this discussion because this Wisteria is a monster. And interestingly enough, it's also one of the shortest jams in the bracket.
That's exactly.
Yep. It
does so much in its 18, almost 19 minutes.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Yeah. We use the word efficiency all the time when we talk about this jam. And there's so much wrapped up in this jam. There's kind of like a lore to it at this point, right? This is one of the first kind of jams that they did that introduced this new jamming style that they did throughout the year with the kind of the darkness that we kind of refer to all the time. But
and the
double
drip
drums.
field, the drip field drums.
Drip drums.
That kind of like the emphasis on the toms.
Descending
the
toms.
2 guitar attack. Like, obviously we've talked about on the pod a bit how Peter's been kind of going back to the keys a lot this fall, through Taboos, Goosemas, etc. But the first half of this year was all about that Rick and Peter dual guitar attack. And this jam is a prime example of it. Talking about the Legend Valley, All I Need, that first jam is a very similar theme to this San Francisco Wisteria, but it's got Peter on keys, so it's a different vibe. And obviously, I think we all think that this one does it a little bit better.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't particularly hard for me with this matchup. Wisteria all the way, for all the reasons that y'all say. And I'll get into this when we do the We Pick 'em tournament style thing towards the end. But I have this track here being upset by another jam in March. So I can't wait. And again, we're talking about bracket season here. That's something exciting to me. To see how this is all going to shake out.
That's a big deal.
It is. I get it. Wisteria here all the way.
Oh yeah.
So you guys want to skip the next matchup and just kind of go to the matchup after that,
I don't think any of us really care much about this.
Yeah, everybody loves that half step. Let's move on.
This next matchup is, I mean, it's not even going to be close. We've got
it's an 8-9, but don't let that deceive you.
Thumb on the scale.
We've got the 8 seed Philly Hunger Site up against the 9 seed New Orleans Mississippi Half Step from October the 6th. So look, real quick, I love this Hunger Site. I've got it as a 4 seed. This matchup actually for me is a 4 seed against a 7 seed. So I think these are both underrated in how they came into the bracket. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think, I know not everyone agrees with me, but I think that this Hunger Site jam is it's top notch. I love the stuff that Trevor does. He kind of leads the middle part of this jam. It's turns into a great funk jam. Has a nice peak at the end. I mean, it's just a really nice jam, even from the kind of Hunger Site proper, type 1 jamming that precedes the rest. Everything's really good. It's just a really, really solid jam. I love the song. And so, yeah. And now this half step is also, really, really good. It also touches on some darkness, it's been some of the jams that we've talked about going there as well. And so, that's always kind of, I think, a big positive. I think people really kind of latch on to, any jam that kind of goes a little bit dark. So, I always love seeing half step. It's, they've got a really high slugging percentage with it. I mean, we've got a couple in the bracket. But yeah, I think it's Hunger Site here for me, without question. And in terms of my prediction of the voters, I hope it goes Hunger Site. I think for a lot of people, maybe they go with the song that they like. Hunger Site's a real popular song among the masses. Half Step being a cover. So anyway, I think Hunger Site's going to go through here. We'll see how far it goes. I mean, it's
Do you have it beating the San Francisco Wisteria, B?
No, I don't actually. So I do actually know exactly how far it goes.
You wish. I've done multiple A/B listens on this matchup, and I was still down to a coin flip, and so I went with the trusted Jive Goose opinion on this one, and I'm putting Hunger Site forward. But this half step, truly incredible, 3 minutes of this jam where they're just, Rick and Peter again. We were talking about with the San Francisco Wisteria, Rick and Peter on that dual guitar darkness, and they're just attacking shit. It's so good. That segment of the jam is just incredible. But I feel like picking the Hunger Site, I'm looking at, maybe overall there's no segment of the Hunger Site that's as good as that 3 minutes of half step, but the Hunger Site has a lot more of really good jamming, and at a certain point the quantity is going to beat out the quality if the quantity is this kind of ratio.
I had the good fortune of being a captive audience at B's a few months back, and he played the Philly Hunger Site for me. I don't know if it was because he just wanted me to hear it again, or if he was already like thinking about putting his thumb on the scale to
I,
kind of sort of move it along in the process.
Kev,
But
was
whatever the reason, it ended up working.
pressing his
Uh,
fellow bracketeers.
what's up, B?
Kev, I play that for all my guests, man.
So
Intro
So
music.
he was putting his thumb on the scale because his second thing that he asked me after he pressed play was, "Do you have an active Twitter account?" So we see where this is going. You know, we see where this was going from the beginning. Both versions of these two songs, the half step, just awesome stuff. I actually go back to listen to that often just because it's fun to listen to. But in the end, the sustained goodness, as Ryan described there, throughout the whole song, is what ultimately had me choosing Hunger Site here.
This is the goat hunger site, right? I think we all can agree on that one. Can we agree on that? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So,
Agreed.
you know, you have the goat hunger site going up against what is one of like a couple good versions of, you know, half step.
Is this the goat half step though?
No,
I think it is.
I mean, it depends on who you ask. I actually,
What's better?
to some degree or another, I like the half step from Legend Valley more than this half step. And I realize that's
Interesting.
controversial.
Okay,
And it-
Mister, I was at Legend Valley.
Yeah, well, there's that
Maybe some
piece.
attendance bias, but
It's a little bit of an attendance bias, which I tend not to do. But that
Good. I'm about to
half step
turn
is
that on you when
pretty
I
good.
go off about the DC Wisteria for 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, you know,
Please don't.
But yeah, it's matched up against the good hunger site. This hunger site's really good, and also it has a nice little tidbit at the end of, well, Rick speaking from stage, which is rare but becoming less rare. But the Trevor bass at the end
Trevor
is
bass?
so good. No, it's not like the high pitched Trevor bass. It is
I know.
Trevor bass poses the question, which
Trevor
is
bass?
wonderful.
after
Trevor
crushing it,
bass.
I think
After
it's.
he
I think
crushes.
he's emphasizing. I think he's like
Yep.
making sure everybody knew what just happened.
Yeah, like
You
look
know
over
what I
there
mean?
at the guy in the sunglasses. Like
That was the
that's-
vibes at the show.
That's what
It
just
was-
happened in that jam.
Yeah. A lot of Trevor this year.
If you like Trevor, go listen to that hunger site.
Good year
Killer.
for Trevor.
Yeah. Now, you know, you guys
Great year
mentioned
for
this.
Trevor.
This may be the goat hunger site. This is not the highest seeded hunger site in the bracket. Ooh.
Yeah, but we'll talk
We'll
about
get to that
that
later.
Well,
get
we
to
know
that later.
why though.
We
Yeah.
do know why. And I mean, I
Let's
kind
talk about it
of
when we
had
get
the
there.
other one higher.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that when we get there. You're right.
So moving on, we have another jam from New Orleans from the second night in New Orleans on October 7th of Madivan at the 5 seed, taking on the 12 seed. Another Philly night 2 jam in Factory Fiction. So Madivan against Factory Fiction, 5 against a 12. I don't think that this is going to be as easy as you think a 5-12 matchup might be. It's a really good Factory Fiction. I didn't have any Factory Fictions in my bracket, to be honest.
It's always a fan favorite
Me
too.
neither.
Yeah, but huge fan favorite. Not surprised at all to see the amount of people that included it, got it to a 12 seed. This Madivan is really good though, and I don't think it should have much of a problem winning here. But I do think that this is going to end up being probably a lot closer than anyone might think. I think this is the second best Madivan of the year, actually. Right behind
I'm going to make a
Raleigh,
bold
so.
prediction here and say that Factory Fiction upsets this Madivan
Crowd favorite.
Ooh.
Yeah.
because it's a crowd favorite. I'm going to make a cynical ploy here and say that people are not going to listen to these two different versions and they're just going to whack it Factory Fiction.
Well,
But also,
but
you
here's
say that-
Madivan is no slouch when it comes to fan favorites either. You know what I mean? So it's not
One
like
of.
Yeah.
it's not like Factory Fiction against like a really good.
But I feel there's
Earthling.
more familiar
Earthling.
Madavans
Right. But
than
also
this one.
in our little corner of the Goose community on Twitter, I feel like there has been a ton of love and a ton of chatter about this Nola Madivan. Now I'm mispronouncing it because of you, B. God damn it. About this Nola Madivan. There's a lot of people who really love this jam. And so I'm interested to see if that carries over to when we see the voting play out, when this poll comes around. I'm curious to see if that love is as prevalent as we think, or if the Factory Fiction hype might beat it. This Madhavan is really, really good. You know, I don't have it making it further than the next round, but it's an excellent jam. I think this show, you know, this NOLA run especially is like really, really that's the high point of fall tour right there, and a tour that was, you know, kind of very inconsistent. You know, we'd get either like one really good set or one really good jam, and then the rest of the show would kind of be maybe This is, I think, definitely the best show of fall tour. The second night in NOLA. I think we all agree on that one.
Yes.
You know, I know B really likes their encore choice on this show, and we had a very good day after show on this one. But yeah, I don't know. I really like this Madhavan, but I don't have it going more than one round, and you know, we'll talk about why in the next matchup.
So we've talked about efficiency on this pod already. We've talked about commitment on this pod already. This matchup is a huge commitment. It's 55 and a half minutes of listening to arrive at a conclusion. And what I'll say about both of these is they're both pretty good. They're both really long. They're not efficient. And I don't know. I'm not excited about this matchup at all. I appreciate this Madhavan, but I don't have the love for this Madhavan that other people do.
There's so many other good ones this
and
year.
Similarly, yeah, this Factory Fiction I appreciate as well, but I'm puzzled that it made it into the bracket over some other jams. I don't know. Madhavan wins this one, and then we just move on to the next. It's in whatever kind of moves on from here doesn't go very far, in my opinion.
Yeah, because in the next round, it will likely be facing the 4-seed DC Drive from March 1st, which is going up against the 13-seed This Old Sea from November the 15th. And is this our first Taboos entry?
I believe so.
Yeah, wow. It took us a while to get there.
This is our first entry from the Taboos. You know, we've got a few of them.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, this is our first one.
First in the bracket we've read. Yep.
Yeah. So, no real problem for me here. I love this drive, and it's the best of the year. I would have had this at a 3-seed. I
think we all had this at around 11, like either right at the bottom of our top 10 or just outside our top 10 for the year.
Yeah. And this version of This Old Sea, I mean, it's good. But much like the Factory Fiction, I'm probably scratching my head a little bit as to how it beat out some other jams that maybe didn't make it in. So, but either way, Drive comes out of here easily.
Yeah, you know, I think if the C had a little bit more length on it, it definitely could have made a case to deserve a spot in this bracket. I think the jam definitely goes a lot of different places in a short amount of time. I just don't think it has the strength to topple this drive for sure. You know, we talked about the Trey bias already. We'll talk about it again. That may happen here, but I urge everybody, go back and listen to this drive. You know, the first few minutes of this jam, first of all, you'll get the nice little nostalgia of them playing through the whole composed section and the O's and the everything. But this jam, I remember it feels like it's heading in a very standard direction for the first couple of minutes. And then Rick, you know, takes the winter 2022 minor darkness into it. You know, Peter goes away from the guitar for a minute, lays down some like low vintage vibe stuff. Really, really awesome, like dark and evil section in this, and then they just explode back into it at the end. Absolutely agree with B there. Best drive of the year for sure. I would go as far as to say it's the best single jam drive that they've played. You know, the only one beating it, in my opinion, would be Bingo Tour, which still stands as the GOAT in my books. But this drive is really, really excellent. I think definitely, you know, wins this matchup for me and beats the Nola Madhavan in the next round. But, you know, we'll see what the people think.
Definitely hurts my heart to say anything negative about C anytime.
I don't want to say anything negative.
No, I know, but it's going to lose, Ryan, and to me that's negative.
That's fair.
And so it hurts my heart to
Luckily-
know that this Old C is going to experience some heartache here, but it's just
Yeah.
going to happen. That drive is scorching.
But luckily, there's another C later in the bracket that
There is.
Yeah.
has some legs.
Yeah, so I'll say this about the drive here. I had this as a 3. I think we all had it roughly in the 3 seed area. This was my yardstick jam for determining whether or not something deserved to be in the top 10 range. A meter stick jam for the Canadians in the audience. But this is one that like I measured jams against, and I would listen to this jam and I'd say like, hey, does I'm trying to think of like another top 10 jam right now, but I'm drawing a blank. But like, does this deserve to be up here? I think when we talk about the All I Need from Portland, like that was one that I was like, does it need to be past this drive? This drive's killer. I love this drive. We talk about jams that I've listened to the most. This is probably one of my top 5 listened to jams out of the year. It's so good, man, and it has a listenability that is just killer. So yeah, I love this one. This Old C, it's always a banger, but this one's not as much of a banger as other This Old C's.
Well, it's very unbangerish for me, but yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
It's very mellow. Now, is this
Banger.
the shortest jam in the bracket at 16 minutes, Ryan, or close? Probably.
Yeah, it should be.
Probably. I don't have the timestamps with the actual entries. I do have mine, but
Do a
yeah,
quick
it's
cursory glance, but I think you may be right.
yeah. So it's I think it's a good version. Great. One of the highlights definitely of the Taboose run for me as well. And there were some I had above it for sure, but definitely in sort of probably top 5 jams. And yeah, but as everybody said, the drive wins. I'm bummed this drive has to run into Wisteria in the end, because I think it's got some more
Because it's
legs
going to get
to it.
run over.
Yeah,
Everything,
it will.
everything in this region is doomed anyway.
Yeah, but even if even maybe one more, maybe making it to the quarterfinals, the Elite Eight type places, I had it as my 10th best jam of the year. Same thing. Hey, if they want to play single drive jams like this, give it to me.
Yeah. So just a quick note on the timings. We don't really include the timings with the polls for the voting, nor
not.
do we include the timings in the bracket challenge brackets that get filled out. And I think that's probably a good thing, because a lot of these timings can be very tricky, because you take something like that Philly Factory Fiction, which closed
Like
out the
26.
set.
Yeah.
It's probably got 4 minutes of
Crowd noise.
tacked
Yeah.
on at the end.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it would have been nice to break out the actual. I used to keep track of the actual timings, but it's
When they play over 80
tiresome.
shows in a year, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So okay. Well, moving on to the lower half of the Europa bracket, the Europa region, we have the 6 seed Chrysalis, All I Need, versus the 11 seed from
Dylan.
Dylan,
Yeah.
816, A Western Sun.
And is this the only AWS in the bracket?
It is very, very, very off year for the song after obviously 2021, where it was, the jam.
And got played a lot this year, but non-jam.
Very
as we saw,
abbreviated,
too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Only a handful of jam versions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is an interesting matchup, for a few reasons.
It's a weird matchup.
The All I
too.
Need, I think, is going to have no problems winning here, and I think some might wonder. I think some might think this is seated too low. I think it's probably right where it should be.
Mhm.
This is one of those jams that I think, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, it's really long. But I have a hard time, really getting into it.
Yeah.
There's a few sections that I really like, but overall, it just seems to be a jam that takes a really long time to give maybe just a little bit of payoff. And I know there's going to be people that disagree with that. Like I said, it's going to be a lot higher for a lot of people. It's going to have no problems winning here, because this A Western Sun, I'm not quite sure how this got in, period, let alone as an 11 seed. So um, I know a good buddy of mine, who's really close to the band, actually really rates the Legend Valley at Western Sun uh, extremely high. So I know he's going to be a little disappointed
To
with
see
this as
this
well. But
Western, yeah.
He may be. He may be. I definitely agree. I think this is obviously it's the second 35-minute All I Need of the year. Obviously, it's nowhere near as good as the Legend Valley one. I think it definitely could benefit. Same with the Royal Oak Rosewood. Its runtime doesn't really justify the quality of the jam. I think, but also that's going to happen. There are going to be jams that they play that are 35 minutes that maybe aren't as worth it because they're exploring, they're trying to find new places. And there are obviously, as you mentioned, B, there are some great sections of this jam, especially Peter bringing out that Moog matriarch that he had synth over the summer. Really interesting stuff in this jam. This is also one of those shows. This show on the soundboards, Peter is mixed incredibly low, which is strange because Peter was still mixing all the boards at this point. So I'm curious as to why it ended up that way. But he's hard to hear for a lot of this jam, with the exception of the section with the matriarch. So I'm wondering how it would sound. Maybe if we would regard it a little differently, if he was a little more audible for a large portion of it.
It's good when you can hear everyone playing music and make sure that we're hearing what we want to.
Hot take.
Yeah, this AWS is interesting. I think what makes it exciting for people is the last 4 minutes, where I had a very kind of classic rock riffage thing going on. But it's really only 4 minutes of this jam, and otherwise there's not much to go back to there. This All I Need is an interesting All I Need insofar as to me it sounds like old Goose. It doesn't sound like 2022 Goose.
Interesting, yeah.
And there was a lot
really
of chatter.
short first jam, really long second jam.
Yeah, and kind of, it's hard to explain. I mean, I don't know.
It's an All I Need arrow, man.
Yeah, it does a lot, and doesn't really end up anywhere kind of great. There was some chatter when they first, after they played the show, whether or not there was a little bit of Beast Pose jam in there, and I do hear that. And we talked about this on the pod, I think, before, where I think that Beast Pose jam section kind of gives credence to the fact that this is an older feeling jam. But yeah, it's big. It's a big commitment. I think neither of these are particularly I don't want to say they're not exciting because they're both really good jams, but yeah, I think there's more exciting matchups to come.
Yeah, the All I Need here doesn't have bracket longevity for me, but it wins this round.
No, same here. Runs into a good one in the next one. Yeah, and I think you were saying it sort of ties into some of the styles. The style of this All I Need, larger section and emphasis on the second jam, which has traditionally a little bit more higher tempo, some of that older feel, a little bit more of kind of the blissy peaks, which tie into the 2019, 2020 older sort of sound. And what we kind of really, or pardon, what I really rate and wanted to see differently was these shifts to sort of darker, more patient, don't need as much action from everybody, sort of it's sort of less is more at times, as we've come to see with a lot of these jams, some of the sort of the sirens or the effects or the drums and sort of spaces that get created. And yeah, little payoff. I don't know. Both beautiful moments. Western Sun was fun. That was a great show. If we go back to Dylan, I love those nights, but yep, not even, I don't know. That's a weird one to end up. This is sort of two songs I'm like, it'll lose in the next round.
Exactly. Speaking of the next round, who's it going to meet in the next round?
I was much nicer about it, D.
So the next round, it is going to meet the Legend Valley Creatures. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But the next round one matchup is the 3-seeded Legend Valley Creatures going up against the 14th seeded Earthling or Alien from Boulder.
Don't take that tone
I actually do know one person who put that Boulder Earthling Alien in their picks.
Guilty as charged.
way too high. Not quite sure how this one made it in, but it did make it in. So needless to say, I did not
this
have
year's
this one
Empress.
seated. Um,
Sears.
I had the Legend Valley Creatures as a 6 seed, and I know I've got that lower than than a lot of other folks. It is a good jam. I think I think it gets a little bit overrated for such a small, kind of
Yeah, the
short,
back end. Yeah.
brilliant ending, which is really really good though. And I know a lot of you guys, even here on the pod, are big fans. So I don't want to offend anyone.
I think we have
But
some
yeah,
who rate it
again,
up there. Yeah.
Creatures is gonna have no problem making it out of here. Yeah. Anybody feel anything different?
Total agreement.
Well, I just want to talk about a couple of these gyms. It's interesting that these are pitted against each other because what makes both of these jams interesting is a small section at the end. The Fox Echo or Fox Earthling Aurelian has this really cool kind of major key section at the end where it sounds like they're going to drop into "I Know You, Rider" at like any moment, which is actually really fascinating for an Earthling Aurelian. And then this Creatures, of course, I think if you're gonna knock this Creatures, you're gonna talk about how the part that's exciting about this jam is the end, and it's a very short section. But that one short section is, in my opinion, the beauty of improvisational music.
Yeah.
Peter
Exactly.
introduces a phrase, and that phrase builds from this tiny little thing into this incredible jam very, very quickly. And it's just so beautiful. And man, like I love improvisational music so much, and it's this kind of thing that I love about it. It's just it's
Well,
gorgeous and brilliant and inventive and I mean, it's got everything for me. But like I said, you can knock this jam if you want to say like, well, there really isn't enough of it. But just the creativity of it, I think, gets it its seed. I might have actually had it lower myself, but it's a cool jam. I'm excited about it. I think some folks are really excited about it. So I
yeah.
think that'll cause some kind of shakeups in the way the bracket works out. But we'll see.
Yeah, but what you said, Neil, was great. And that's sort of the point. Some of these other jams, we just talked about the All I Need, there's sections. There's going to be moments inside of it now. They'll probably hold them back in the end in the sense that it doesn't have maybe the staying power. And I really like, as you said, to come out of the Earthling, go into a kind of a different sound. Earthling was doing a couple different things this year. We saw a couple other versions that are higher up, and a song that maybe we clamored for some variety last year, right? And all of a sudden we start to see it, which is good. Creatures can be sort of a driving type 1 kind of jam, aside from good ones that really stand out. But moments like that where it's even 2.5, 3 minutes of just like a bliss ending that sounds nothing like Creatures, that sounds sort of, so it's sort of, that's that patience that we ask for if when we're in the middle of a song and it's like nothing's happening right now, and then all of a sudden they take a turn, and sure enough we reach some of the best moments of the year. Some people I know had this in their top 5, I think, the
Yeah.
Creatures. So
A
it's
number of people had it ranked number 1 overall.
yeah, and that's cool, and that just shows that probably props it up a little bit against where we have it, where I have it as well. But as we said and Ryan said, that's why we got the crowd involved this year. So it's sort of to crowdsource this information and make sure that it's not just us. We want everybody else to sort of have a hand in saying what they should about, obviously, what their favorite moments of the year are.
Yeah, this is an easy Creatures call for me. I actually have those Creatures going pretty deep into the choice bracket. I don't know if we're calling it that, but I have it going pretty deep. Not as deep as another song later in this bracket, but we'll leave that to Jive to advance us on there.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just one final kind of comment on the Creatures. I actually think that the way we kind of talk about the creativity and the improvisation in this Creatures, I actually think they do this a lot. And I'm shocked that a song like a version like this, Creatures, that yes, it has a pretty little ending, and I get it. It started with piano. It all starts somewhere, right? I I just have a hard time that you listen to this, Creatures. Go listen to Minneapolis Dark Horse, which very similarly, the last 5 or 6 minutes,
the
it
ending.
starts out with just Rick playing a really pretty starts with Rick playing a really pretty lick, and then the band kind of picks up on it, and it's a really pretty jam. Last 5 or 6 minutes of that dark. So I've just never been able to figure out what makes this creature so much better than that Dark Horse, and we could come up with other examples as well. It's just I get that it's a pretty jam, but that 4 minute pretty jam that starts out with some soft bed of piano,
Ayo.
Gentle.
it just I I'm just not quite sure what exactly sets it apart from everything else so much. But I don't want to speak negatively of any of these jams. So we will move on, and we'll talk about that Dark Horse later.
We will.
Oh, but
Oh, will
believe
we?
you me, we will talk about that Dark Horse.
Okay, so 2 matchups left to wrap up the Europa region. First, we have the 7 seed Dripfield from October 1st going up against the 10 seed Redbird from March 5th in Nashville.
You mentioned this
7
bird earlier.
seed versus a 10 seed here. Now, this is an upset for me. And
I thought you had that Dripfield like really high.
So I do have the Dripfield high, and I have it a little bit higher than the Nashbird. I had the Nashbird as an 8 seed, and the Dripfield as a 5 seed. But I think this is going to be an upset. I think that
baby.
and this is, hey, look, this is another matchup that's very interesting because of the styles of these jams, right? So you have this Dripfield that does the when we look at the fall tour, we had the pancakes, this Dripfield, and the Rosewood that all had really pretty jams. And the Dripwood and the pancakes in particular both started out with some really cool kind of finger style rhythmic playing from Rick. And so just really kind of soft, subtle stuff that then built up into a nice bliss jam. So I do really like this Dripfield jam. But on the other hand, we talk. When Ashbird was up earlier, I mentioned Nashbird at that point. The Nashbird is my second rated bird, behind obviously the Pittsburgh.
Obviously.
And I love the driving, triumphant finish to this Nashbird. And again, it's we've been saying this a lot, but it's like the last 5 or 6 minutes is just a driving big finish where Rick is just kind of hammering a chord and then playing his lines and going back to hammering that chord on the 4 whatever every time through, and it just builds, and it's so triumphant that I think being Redbird, I think just reputation and then just the powerfulness of this jam might carry the upset.
Yeah, I honestly, I take the Dripfield here. I go with the 7 seed. I don't think I had it as high on either of these jams. I don't know. I definitely didn't have this Dripfield as high as you. There's a Dripfield that we get to that is higher seated than this one, which I really don't agree with. I know you guys really love that one, but we will talk about that in the next region. This Dripfield's really good. I love the joyous jam they get into, but I'm not super stoked on either of these jams. Like in terms of going past the first round, we'll talk about it in the next matchup. Both of them easily get trounced by what's to come. But I really enjoy this Dripfield. In my opinion, it's the best one of the year. And I look forward to in 2023 more ways to expand Dripfield beyond just its standard 17 minutes or so, or 15 to 17 minutes of being in the Dripfield zone. So this is a really, really good one. And I look forward to more interesting ones in the future.
I like this Drip too. I don't really have anything to add that hasn't already been said. The Redbird is pretty cool. It does what Redbirds do, kind of builds to that giant peak, and they're both really good jams. This is a 7-10 matchup, right? So, yeah, this one's going to be exciting. I think I'm picking Dripfield here just because of the fact that there aren't that many great Dripfields out there, and this is an example of one. And
Yeah, this is
I do enjoy it more. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
agonize
same.
over this discussion between these two songs, and whatever wins is going to get killed in the next round anyway. So
It better.
So
Well, but
maybe
let's
some
not
people
overlook.
will like
You know, some of
Dripfield.
these matchups are still pretty good though. So
Yes.
you know, I mean, I think in almost every matchup we're going to end up saying, well, it's not going any further.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Which
take away from it.
Yes.
it's
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
true
But-
though, because in our last matchup in Europa, we've got the Legend Valley, the 6'11" Animal as the 15 seed going up against the 2 seed Rockdale from Cleveland,
Woo!
March 10th. And I mean, you know, this Rockdale, it's the GOAT.
It easily in a
you know,
second.
I don't think
Yeah,
there's
no
much of a
question.
debate there, but this is so. You know, I was just talking about the Redbird from Nashville and talking about, you know, that triumphant jam. This is another and I don't use that word a lot, but this is another place where I will say there is a triumphant jam in this Rockdale. It's just this is so unique in terms of Rockdales. I mean, it's the most unique and the most impressive in terms of the improv that's played. It's just such a cool jam. But yeah, the first kind of, you know, type 2 jam that they go into, yeah, it just has a really cool kind of build into a, you know, triumphant, you know, pound the ceiling of your car as you're driving down the road listening to it. And then of course then they break it down, they go to a lot of really cool places, and we get kind of the you know, the vibes you know,
Vibraphones.
from Peter.
vibraphone.
Yeah, the vibraphone vibes. And yeah, such a great jam. And this is another one, you know, Neal, you were saying with respect to the DC Drive, like how many times you've listened to it. This is, you know, a lot of especially these ones from February and March, because we've just had so much longer, you know, to listen to them, I guess, to be fair. But yeah, this is another one that's just been on repeat from time to time, and it's gotten a ton of plays, you know, in my nugs.
Yes, I especially having been in attendance at this Cleveland show, this Rockdale immediately killed. And, you know, my dad, who was at his first Goose show that night, who hadn't really listened to a ton of them before, was like, during that song, he was like, this is my new favorite song. Like, I love this. You know, this jam is phenomenal. You know, we'll see a similar theme to that triumphant thing that you spoke about when we talked about the Bozeman All I Need a little bit later in the bracket. But it's really this, like, really interesting and experimental sounding second half of this jam with the vibraphone and it's like frenetic build that they do, and it's really cool. Like,
and then they break the song down to almost nothing. There's almost nothing there before they go back into, you know, Rockdale again, but they break that song down to almost nothing.
Yeah, and it's so cool because you don't hear Goose do jams like this all the time. You know, this is one where they're like kind of outside a rock steady groove, and we're used to them living in that groove in a lot of their jams, which is not a bad thing. But it's so cool when they do something like this, where they like break the mold completely. You know, Peter's been incorporating more and more of the vibraphone into jams as the year goes on. You know, one that comes to mind that didn't make the bracket, unfortunately, is the Cincinnati Arcadia, you know, that intro jam where he's using it with, like, it's got that kind of like reverb on it. And when he hits that, it has this, like, you know, ripple effect to the sound almost. And so this one, when he's just like, you know, hammering into these chords on the vibraphone, it's incredible. This jam is really, really excellent. You know, I have it going very far in my bracket and losing to the San Francisco Wisteria and the Elite Eight. But it's well deserving of its 2 seed.
I think this one also sort of it was a culmination of a lot of the sounds that we were hearing out of February and March, and kind of
Absolutely.
getting a little bit of the effect driven spaces. Peter, I remember kind of there was like early elements of like some Dripfield sound, or kind of the guitar that sort of, or it's like a feedback sort of, I don't know if it's a Rick on his knobs. Obviously I wasn't there, didn't watch it, but
Working the knobs.
Yeah, I love that. We
Love
like,
some good knob action.
yeah, Peter knob action, Rick bending in the knobs, that All I Need that we spoke about that got number one. That's a lot of just some of those, like it's those are those elements of sounds that Goose, I think for a lot of us, needed to kind of get to kind of make a shift in evolving their jamming style, which was very good. They can do tension and release, and basically, I remember at times it's like a layup for them now. We watch and it's just, all right, here we go, one more peak, and it's just, that's great and all. But the variety was necessary to kind of take them to the next step. And this Rockdale, yeah, it's sort of, I I actually remember this version shifting my perspective about the song, the opinion. I like it. I love Rockdale. It was great to catch it live. I remember seeing it sort of a couple times in the fall of 21, but still wasn't convinced and sort of listened to this one. And it's like, wow. And then Goose Miss Rockdale is another example, kind of doing something different, kind of getting to spaces that we don't expect. This one's, yeah, the GOAT, no doubt. Going to go far. I have it. I mean, we haven't even talked about the other song it's really facing that I'm still surprised, but yeah.
This Rockdale's killer. It's such a good Rockdale. I have regrets about how I actually filled out my rankings, and this is my hot meal take. So get ready. So I wish when I had done my rankings, I put this in the 1 seed area. So this would have been my number 4, and I would have let Legend Valley, All I Need, the consensus number 1 pick from people who did brackets or did rankings, as like the number 1. But I think that actually should be a 2 seed. And I
You
think
can
this
issue
Rockdale should be a
corrective
1 seed.
action, though, Neal, by picking it to make significant progress throughout this corner. Of the
No,
bracket.
that actually sounds like Neal has another reason to send 902 Vickers a DM.
Yeah, I mean,
Human
this is, well,
resources.
actually, it does feel like it's his fault. There's a bunch of people who've been really kind of fluffing that Legend Valley All I Need as the
Damn it,
winner,
Vickers.
which like I don't agree with at all. Like I think there's 2 jams that absolutely eclipse that, if not 4 jams that eclipse that song. But
Yeah.
if not 5 even. I mean, you can make an argument for
If
National
not
Pancakes.
6?
Yeah, I mean, just saying that there's a lot of high quality
SDC
jams
Wisteria.
up there. I will echo what Ryan is saying. It's really exciting when Goose takes a song and you didn't really expect it to go anywhere that it was going, and did this. You think about Western Sun from last year from Perry, same thing. Like, I don't think anybody was expecting that when it happened, and it did. I think the same thing happened here with this Rockdale. Absolutely killer song. And by the way, it's matched up against Animal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because nobody's mentioned Animal. And, like, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Like,
Hey, Animal is a great song. It's
Debut,
like the
too.
catchiest thing ever, but like
Yeah.
this is just it's 20 minutes of the Animal groove. Like it's not necessary.
yeah, I
That's
wouldn't
a
actually call
crowdsourcing
this
favorite.
Animal even like a jam. I think it's turn-based soloing.
Yeah.
Which is not.
They were both
It's not a
working
jam.
the song
Not a jam.
Listen, the Tahoe one is probably the better one, but I am of the opinion, I've said this lots before, that Animal is its best when it's like a 5-minute closer. That is where the song shines. That is where I believe it needs to be. And something like this is just like, I get it, like it's the debut, they're gonna have some fun with it, but I think it shines best. I think it is at its best when it's a 5-minute closer.
Well, this is the beauty of crowd seating, is that you get
Yes.
you get a large sampling of opinions, and it wasn't just one person that put this in, right? I mean, there was a
Many.
lot of people that liked it, and so yeah, you know what I mean. People can, not everybody has to be a student of
Express yourself.
improvisational music. Some people can just say, you know what, when I listen to this jam, I get really happy and I stand up and dance, and so therefore I'm going to put it into my crowd seating submission, and fuck anybody who doesn't agree with me or who says my jam isn't any good.
It's a little aggressive.
Dance vibes
Hey,
is
man.
no.
A little aggressive.
I'm just
Pete.
saying, if I want to listen to turn-based soloing, I'm going to listen to Billy Strings. Let's move on.
Whoa!
Now you're attacking Kev?
That's
And
fine.
Yeah, whoa, okay, all right.
If we're being honest here, I feel like you're both attacking me right now.
that's a great transition. For our next round, we have the Nebula region. First matchup is one that is another massive crowd favorite. One of my favorite songs and jams of the year is the February 12th Pittsburgh, or the Pittsburgh Redbird, up against the June 10th Legend Valley Mississippi Half Step. Not really a competition here in some sense. I mean,
Nope.
great half step, but this Redbird,
This is the Pittsburgh.
it stands above. It stands far and above. So I have this one walking and going far. Really fun half step in the moment, but
Yeah.
Time
You know-
for a bird to fly.
You know, when we say straight burden,
Yeah, this is
this
it.
is what
this
we
was
mean.
it. Yeah.
This jam is the epitome of the phrase straight burden. This is it. This is it. And again, as Dee said, fantastic half step, especially, you know, great work from Peter. He really shines on this one. Vintage vibes, synth work. But it's all about the Pittsburgh. You know, Trevor, when he's using that, like, that envelope filter that's like kind of, it's not super aggressive, but it's like a bubble popping. It's so
Liquid.
good, and it's just
It's like
super
liquidy.
long
Yeah.
build, and it's the Pittsburgh, man. It's the Pittsburgh. If you don't know, you should.
Yeah, I was a little surprised this came in as a 1 seed. To be honest, I
too.
mean, it's in my top 10. I had it as a 2 seed, but yeah, I mean, it's Pittsburgh, dude. And I'll tell you what, the only other thing I'll add to this is if you want a workout playlist, you know what I mean, or if you need to run through a brick wall.
Play some pickleball and win.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what. Hey, so listen, here's what I do. I pack up. I get all my pickleball stuff ready.
Pickleball prep.
I bike to the courts a lot, and so you know it's about a 10-minute ride. Without a doubt,
It's a course, not a court.
Pittsburgh is the track that has been played the most, and also 3-1 drive, by the way, also gets played a lot to fire
Pickleball
me up
sections.
for the
Nice.
courts.
Do you
So-
skip, because it's a 10-minute drive? Do you skip to like 10 minutes into the Pittsburgh jam?
Yeah, you
I
gotta
skip.
get it.
I skip into about probably 8 minutes in.
8 minutes.
to the
Yeah,
track,
6 to 8.
probably on
that-
average.
Yeah,
Get to the meat.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't have time on the ride. The ride's just too short to listen to the sweetness.
Well, and also you can't. You have a reputation to protect. You know, you can't be biking through, you know, to the pickleball court. You can't be showing up, you know, belting
Singing.
out "Time for a Bird to Fly," and it's impossible not to if you hear that.
I just have this image in my mind of like an 80s like movie of like a dude like on like a 10 speed, just like just hauling ass and just like
To the
rocking
Pittsburgh.
out to the Pittsburgh. And
We'd like to submit that to our complaints hotline 902 Vickers. Can you please make that happen?
yeah, so
Yeah.
just like hair flowing in the wind, just
Oh.
a look of determination on his face, the game face slowly hardening as he approaches the pickleball court.
As the Pittsburgh intensifies.
As the Pittsburgh intensifies. Killer jam, though, and I really like this half step that it's matched up against. Some people may call that attendance bias. It is a
Neal's
killer
got
jam.
a lot of Legend Valley attendance.
Well, you know, the interesting
It's
thing
a good
about
spot.
the bracket is that it gives folks an opportunity to listen to jams or revisit jams they may not have listened to that much. This one, I'm grateful that people have an opportunity to listen to again, because its half step is very good, even though it's a 16 seed. I think there are some 16 seeds, 15 seeds in this bracket that are like, yeah, they're okay. This one's a very, very, very good 16 seed. I had it rated higher. I don't know what my seeding was, but it's good, and it loses quite easily to this. Doesn't matter. It's still a very good jam. I think on this day, when you listen to these two, you're pretty lucky because they're both killer.
On to the next matchup. We have the 8-9 seed, and we have the December 16th Goosemas Drive up against the October 13th Fayetteville. And yes, I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Arkansas.
Tumble. Great matchup. I personally picked the drive here, probably a little attendance, recency bias. The Tumble I have listened to quite often. It's unique in the sense it's got some very different elements, kind of the classic dropout in the middle and kind of build a new segment towards the end. But this drive in particular, maybe not the quality as some, but some of the others that we see in the bracket this year, but just kind of energy wise, that moment from Goosemas, I still recall and was one of my favorite moments of the year. Kind of had a couple of us from the pod. It just, we were loving life there. Really started the weekend for me as a whole. So
I'll say one thing about this drive, and you know, it's good. It's short and it's very good. It may or may not lead you to losing your grip on reality. I think some people had that experience at that show.
Some people.
But no, it's good. I like this tumble better, though. This tumble's really, really good. I love tumbles. Everybody knows this. It just, there's more substance to this tumble than there is to this drive. Although I kind of do like the vibe in this drive. It gets very, very weird. There's just not that much of the weirdness. But yeah, does anybody else have anything to say? I wasn't sure if anybody.
Yes, thank you.
Oh.
I really do like this drive. It's all about that last segment of the jam, the last few minutes where they get into that. It's that dual guitar attack that we really weren't seeing as much of in the fall and December, at least. Again, we talked about that being more prevalent early in the year. But this drive is amazing. Peter showing off his new Hot Rod Red guitar. I'm excited to hear him talk about that a little bit more in the future. Whether he was bored of the pink or, was looking for the hot rod the whole time. Who knows? But yes, always dual guitar. I will always be team dual guitar Goose. Sounds absolutely phenomenal. But I do think this drive is a little bit overseeded. It lands in an 8 seed. I had it, I think, in the bottom 15 of my 64 or so because it's an amazing jam, but it's carried by the weight of the last few minutes. There's not a ton in the rest of it that's super interesting. And this tumble, to me, it's over 20 minutes long. This is tumble of the year, I think, for sure. I had it decently high on my bracket. I absolutely love this jam. First we get this guitar section. We get this breakdown that, again, I know Dee's a big fan of the Dragonfly-ish jamming. Dragonfly vibes. Thank you, Kev. The Dragonfly vibes are very much present here for a large portion. It's really amazing stuff. And then, Peter gets into this drip field teasing as they come out of it, and come home. But this jam is phenomenal. Definitely wins this matchup for me. It doesn't feel like it should be an upset.
Yeah, I don't think it feels like it should be an upset either. So I do agree that this is the best tumble of the year. But I only had it as an 8 seed myself. The drive, though, only snuck in as a 16 in my 60, a 16 seed in my 64. So yeah, I agree that with everything you said, Neal, about it being a little bit overrated here. Yeah, I just think that look, the tumble's just more dynamic, and it just has a little bit more going on. And so a lot of times I struggle with tumbles, not quite to the same degree as maybe with Arrow, but tumble creatures. A lot of times I just kind of feel like there's the song itself is such a journey. You know what I mean? There's so much going on to get to kind of the meat that we're looking for here, and then of course you've got the tumble ending as well. So, but this one is unique in the sense that it really kind of goes to a couple different places in there and then fires back into the ending, real nicely. So yeah, I'm really hoping tumble comes through here. I don't think that this one should be close, but again, I think with the recency and the popularity of Goosemas, versus maybe Fall Tour, I wouldn't be surprised if this were close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Drive won.
Yeah, I had tumble here. Not much more to be said. It's going to get hurt in the next round anyway.
This may be my favorite jam of Fall Tour. I don't know if that's going too far. It might be going too far, actually, now that I think about it.
Which is nice, yeah.
It's one of my favorite jams of Fall Tour, for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. So moving on, we got a 5-12 seed. We have the March 10th Cleveland Dripfield coming in at the 5, going up against the June 6th. It would be Essex Junction, but more or less Burlington, Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah, Wisteria Lane, which is a very unique jam, and as one of our fellow members here wonderfully picked out, has some great elements. I got an early upset here. Great drip field. Very unique. It's my favorite one of the year, and I actually have them kind of close, but I don't know. The more I listen to these two, and after Neal brilliantly pointed out the Thatch section, I'll transition to him, but there's early elements of a new song we've seen. So
this matchup is way closer than the seeding shows. And in fact, in terms of rankings, I think I had actually this Wisteria higher than anybody else. I had this as like my 20th overall. So I actually had it ahead of this drip field. I hate to see either of these jams lose because they're both so good. I mean, there's so much awesome stuff going on in that drip field that it deserves to move on. But this Wisteria, which is funny because I was at this show, and when I left that show, I was saying it's not that good. And I kind of had that reverse attendance bias thing going on that I normally do. And I think Jive was the one who was like saying like, no, that's a really, really good Wisteria. That thing has aged. You were saying that it was really good. In any case, I think it's aged really well for me. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. And there's a very distinct section there where like I have to assume they were playing some elements of Thatch before
working on it, yeah.
Before this jam, but like if they actually started playing this, and this is like the genesis of Thatch right here in this jam, then it kind of knocks it up a few places because that's really freaking amazing. And it's just the intro piece of Thatch. It's not like the full Thatch jam. It's just that I don't know how to describe it, but there's the guitar line that Rick does in the beginning there.
The initial Dave Matthews groove.
The intro lick, and and you know, you pointed out a good one in the Chrysalis Earthling, which we'll get to in the next region as well. But yeah, this matchup is interesting for me because I don't think I have this drip field nearly as high as the rest of you guys do. And I was at this show. It's a great jam, but I feel like it is definitely not worthy of the 5 seed. I have Wisteria moving on here. It just feels like the better piece of improvisation for me. You know, drip field is drip field for a while, and then it's got that, you know, really great Shama kind of jam on the back end. But it feels like a lot. It doesn't feel like it's worthy of the 5 seed here, especially with this amazing Wisteria, while still being like the 5th best Wisteria of the year. It's still an incredible jam because there are so many good Wisterias played this year. So I don't know. To me, both jams get beat in the next round by the jam it's going up against. But this Wisteria wins the matchup for me here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is a really interesting matchup. I do have this Wisteria seated higher personally, but I also have 5 other Wisterias ahead of this one. So,
yeah.
The
year of the Wisteria.
I think that this drip field, it's just a big jam, and you know, maybe you could say there's a little bit of a Shama-ish, you know, kind of jam in there as well, which, you know, maybe for some that might take away from, you know, some of the, you know, creative factor or what have you. But all I know is that this is one of those jams that I go back to a lot. I love to listen to it. It's, you know, so this one I guess gets a lot of points for me for just kind of just the powerful nature of the jam and just how much I enjoy it and love listening to it. So I think that this drip field should probably go through here. And maybe for some people there will be a little bit of Wisteria fatigue, maybe. At some point, you know, you got to take some of that into consideration with some of these tracks that are repeated so many times in here. So I think when it's up against something like this drip field, you know, I think this is an opportunity for us to get a drip field moving on.
And B, you're talking about me right there. I scooted drip field on just for that reason, because there are so many other good Wisterias. better Wisterias in the bracket.
Yeah, that's true. Moving on, we have the first 13 seed. We have the November 9th, All I Need from Portland. First Taboos Jam, at least in terms of the tour that we saw and made it to the bracket. My favorite as well. Going up against the February 11th Pancakes from Louisville. Both shows that I was at, actually, and it's the All I Need here all day. My favorite jam, like I said, from Taboos. Standing next to Ryan, still recall him throwing his hands in the air, and it
repeatedly.
Yeah, there was something about this jam as well. Talking about kind of the triumphant beauty. I mean, there's some dark elements that we kind of were hoping for, and actually saw some of the most darker jamming of the whole tour, I felt, in this first night, in this first jam, the first big jam of the run. So unfortunate that it didn't kind of carry over, but just highlighted also the quality that they could put out, the confidence that they were showing right away. And yeah, I have it moving on, no question. It'll keep going. So
yeah,
I need great pancakes too. Fun night, fun show. But
let me tell you, the moment D can attest to this, the moment that Peter and Trey started trading licks on clav and guitar, I was absolutely losing my mind. This jam was incredible. Obviously, I think that this is the consensus best thing they played with Trey on Taboos tour. It's just an incredible jam. This was
first
number
time
9.
we saw Trey. Sorry, yeah, first time.
Yes, exactly. The first thing and the best.
He came out, yeah.
I think this was in my top 10 Goose Jams of the year. Covers so much ground. It felt to me like Trey came on stage and was like, okay, Radio City, I was kind of playing by your rules, but now we're playing by my rules here. Like we're jamming, we're going places here. And this jam
playing
is
by
amazing.
Rick's rules.
Yes, this jam is amazing. I absolutely love it. Makes it a couple of rounds here for me, but this matchup is interesting because it feels a lot closer than the last matchup, than the 5-12 that we just saw, even though the seedings are further apart here. But man, I love this All I Need.
Yeah, this All I Need is killer, and I'm surprised this didn't end up with a higher seed. So we've talked about the Trey factor. I had this seeded higher than where it ended up. I think a bunch of us did. Ryan
Maybe we're overcorrecting because we don't want to seem Trey biased. We're overcorrecting.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is I think I was more Trey biased than the people who were doing the seating. So this is awesome. And I remember being at the show thinking, this Taboos run is going to be absolutely outrageous if this is the kind of stuff that we're getting every night. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. They did play their best jam as their very first jam, and then it all I don't want to say it went downhill from there.
It plateaued.
From there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Rick and Trey really got into just doing the dogfight.
Let's get to know each other.
Yeah, this was it. This was the
And then like the twin lead thing, but like this didn't have that much of that. This was just like
not as much almonds.
The whole not as much almonds. This was just improv, and it was really, really good. Absolutely killer jam. And like, don't sleep on the Louisville Pancakes. It's killer. It's an absolutely killer jam. So I do like this matchup. This All I Need, though, is kind of the centerpiece of what happened on Taboos. And everything else is just like a conversation after the fact. This is the one. If you're going to pick a jam, this is the one from Taboos, and it's absolutely killer.
Yeah, I think the All I Need, I agree. I mean, All I Need goes through, real easily here. Just a couple other quick things. Bad break for this Pancakes. I think it should have been seated higher. This is my number 3. This is number 3 in my stack now. I really like this Pancakes.
Same.
And this All I Need, it is so good. And I think definitely if we hadn't crowd seated, I'm pretty sure this All I Need would have ended up probably as a 3.
3.
So not a huge difference. It wouldn't have been any higher than a 3. The only thing about this All I Need that kills me every time I listen to it is just the ending. I just feel like Trey wanted to just
it
keep
was Rick's
shredding
fault.
a little bit more, just take it another notch higher. And Rick kind of uncomfortably went back into the final refrain. But that happens. It is what it is. Still a really killer jam. But it gets me every time.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually forgot
True.
about that.
I know you do. You forget.
I kind of just
I-
shut it
I-
off when that starts to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
I purposely overlook it because the rest of the jam is so
it is
good.
rough. It's so we forgive them. So moving on, 6/11, we got the December 17th Goose Miss Time to Flee. Wonderful jam going up against the 11 seed February 2nd Bend No Rain. Another wonderful matchup.
Wonderful.
These are two. Time to Flee, one of my favorite jams from the Goose Miss run. Not quite to the quality of the night before, but very good. Definitely my favorite from night 2. But another dark horse for me. I have an upset here. This No Rain, it's got some favoritism for sure. This is the one song I'm still chasing probably right now, aside from Turkish
Here
Hills.
comes to the Fox.
Yeah, I know. That was a killer. But this this is sort of another example, the epitome of that February jamming style. Just extreme, like literally broken down, psychedelic, very, very different kind of elements that coming off of the San Francisco Wisteria just a few days earlier, you could hear. And then we see the echo in Portland too. Like that week, we talk about March. Kev talked about, March with Cleveland, with Royal Oak, with Philly, but you have that kind of West Coast run too, where San Francisco, Bend, Portland, the jams that were coming out of those 4 shows. And this one is another one that I listen to a lot. I think you combine it with the Madhavan after it, and wonderful music. It's tough. I think I could see people going recency with the Flea, beautiful Flea, very melodic and wonderful brilliance, but I'm going to go dark horse here. No Rain. No pun intended. Sorry.
Yeah, you keep saying dark horse, man, and I'm like, oh shit.
You're a matchup ahead here.
Are we coming into the dark horse?
So
we're not there yet.
I
He's
feel like
looking at
this
the wrong bracket.
Sorry, I did. It's next.
I feel like this matchup is way closer than a 6/11. I actually have this as a 9/10. I probably, in terms of like listenability, I'm probably going to throw this No Rain on before this Flea. I'm actually really surprised that the Knoxville Flea didn't make the bracket. I've got that right up there with this Flea, and I think maybe I even prefer the Knoxville. I think it's a little bit more cohesive and flows. I think this Flea from Goose Miss felt a little choppy to me at times, and I haven't gone back to it a ton. I still have it rated, where I do, but I think I love the uniqueness of this No Rain, and it doesn't have the blissy, kind of feel. It's different, so I can see it maybe not being for everyone, but it might get my vote.
I like the Snow Rain a lot. This is also Two Guitar Goose on the heels of really killer Two Guitar Goose, just like a few shows before in San Francisco with the
show before.
Was it the show before? How about that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just
one
night off.
Yeah, I've had this one high since they played it. This has always sat in the teens in my playlist for a really, really long time. It's killer. And I think I like the Snow Rain more. I was in attendance for the Flea, like you all were, except for Kev, and it was good. It was the highlight of the second night for sure, and that's a show that people are really high on too, and I think that might play a factor in this. Like folks really liked Goose Miss Night 2, and yeah, I mean the Flea is good. Like me, I haven't gone back to listen to it a whole ton. I think out of that run, there were other things I was really kind of wanting to listen to more. And yeah, man, that Knoxville Flea being knocked out of the bracket, you make a really good point. Like, that's really, really good. I had that rated pretty high as well, and wish that one was in here because I've said this a couple times on the pod already today. But if nothing else, the bracket is an opportunity for folks who don't really dive into jams that deeply to go back and listen to things, that they wouldn't normally listen to. And that would be a cool one for folks to kind of check out. But on the same token, This No Rain, really excited for people to listen to This No Rain again. I hope This No Rain moves on because it's awesome.
So I actually go Flea here, which is interesting because I adore This No Rain. But I did an A/B listen to this just yesterday, and I found myself, as much as I love the No Rain, I feel like there is a bit more depth to the Flea improv here. It's obviously definitely much closer than the seeding implies it is. But I still go Flea in this matchup. And again, This No Rain is incredible. It's that winter two guitar attack. We've talked about it already. This is, I think, obviously, undisputably the GOAT No Rain that they've played. One thing to note, I think there are definitely more covers in the bracket than there were last year. I think last year we maybe only had one with the Eau Claire Way It Is. But this year we have many. 3? Which I guess isn't that many, but that many more. But there are some. So, but I go Flea in this matchup. Both jams get beat by something in the next one, though.
I have some anti-attendancy bias here.
Yes.
Because I wasn't able to go to the show. So that there alone, in addition to the fact that I listened to the No Rain, probably 24 times this year. I have this.
That's it?
That's it, man. I have this version of No Rain. It's a commitment,
It's 25. Dude. Yeah, it is.
It's a commitment. I do have this version of No Rain moving on to the next round.
Brilliant. And
hit me, baby.
That next matchup, the man's been waiting for it, but we have 2 songs competing against each other that are fan favorites of members here.
I'm ready.
We have the 3 seed, March 1st, DC Wisteria Lane.
Let's
going
go.
Up against the 14 seed, February 9th, return for Spirit of the Dark Horse in Minneapolis. I am going to let my man Brian take over from the start. We'll talk.
He can go first. He can go first.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I mean, Ryan doesn't need to get all excited about this 3-1 Wisteria. I mean, everybody.
He rolled his sleeves up. Look at him.
Yeah. It's not like
I'm excited.
It's a good one.
Everybody likes
this jam.
You know what I mean? So, we could take it easy a little bit.
No.
Look, we've got to talk about this Dark Horse a little bit. Obviously, this Wisteria is great. And in fact, I have it as a 2 seed. So if anything, it's underrated in the bracket for me. What's criminally underrated is the Minneapolis Spirit of a Dark Horse. I think it should be a 7 seed. 14 is I think disrespectful, really. Here's the thing. I talked about it a little bit earlier. It's just a great jam. All the way through, it's a great jam. But the last 5 or 6 minutes just goes to a really beautiful, almost TED types style place. I'm just not sure. I know that Minneapolis show is an interesting show. Maybe it didn't get all the hype that a lot of other of those kind of February, March shows got. It's an overlooked jam by people because it's Dark Horse, and it's not Wisteria or All I Need,
and it's the other Dark Horse.
Some of the known big hitters, you know what I mean. But listen, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to put the horse down here.
He's a vegan, people,
and I feel like I should be the one to do that because I loved it the most.
Compassion.
But yeah, this Wisteria is awesome.
Just killer.
Let's bow down to the DC Wisteria here, please.
Top 10.
It goes into multiple directions. This is a no doubter. But I do hope people do go and listen to this Dark Horse and at least kind of add it to their playlist.
Yeah, I would agree with B here. This is a patented Jive Goose no doubter. We're gonna make that a thing now. That's a thing now. Obviously, I think anybody who has ever heard me talk about 2022 Goose knows that I love this Wisteria. This was one of 2 shows this year.
Were you at this one, Brian?
I don't know. Was I? Maybe. I don't know. I don't really talk about being at this show ever. This is obviously it's my favorite attended Goose show. This was one of two non-festival gigs that like had no stream whatsoever. You know, there was no webcast, no fan stream at all. It was this and Bozeman, which we'll get to talking about Bozeman in a little bit. But this show, I remember texting you guys at the time of this Wisteria, like this is the jam of the year, and I may have been wrong, but I wasn't that wrong. This was my number one for a little while before I came to my senses about San Francisco. But this Wisteria, they get into this drip fieldy jam in the middle section. Again, more of this 2-guitar attack Goose from March. The band is just totally locked in this jam. And that last ending segment coming out of the drip field thing where they get into this, it feels like it belongs in like a classic rock song. It's like a 3-chord jam. Rick is just shredding on his octave up,
Like an American
on the
Woman
whammy pedal,
type.
if you will, maybe even. But this is my favorite attended Goose Jam. Do I have attendance bias about this jam? Most definitely. Do I really care that much? No. I love this jam so much. I'm gonna roll my sleeves back down now because I'm done talking about it. But
Disarm, Ryan. Disarm.
this jam, I do
Time to lay your
surprisingly
weapons down, my friend.
in the pass of my bracket that I made here, I have it losing to the Pittsburgh in the Elite Eight. So that may be a thing that happens. We'll see when I put in my bracket challenge picks. We'll see if I still feel the same way. But that's how I feel currently. But this jam is exceptional. DC Wisteria. Thank you.
I think we were all waiting for that. I think you performed.
I know you were.
Like, you rose to the challenge of talking about this jam.
Rolling
I think
down
we're
your
all a little
sleeves, going up,
surprised
Jim.
that like it was not a few minutes longer, or maybe even 5 to 7 minutes longer. But I was impressed that you rolled up your sleeves. I'm a little disappointed that the folks at home didn't get to see you kind of do your hype up section to talk about this. But I'll say this. It is matched up against a very, very, very good jam out of this dark horse. I think the reason why people aren't or weren't as excited about this dark horse at the time was that it was like that bouncy dark horse thing that is not like ye
Not as
old
good.
dark horse. Yeah. And
There's a reason they went back to the original arrangement.
yeah, I don't know, man. But the jam that comes out of it is very good. Stoked that it's in the bracket. I'm glad it's made its way into the bracket. And I don't know. There's not much discussion beyond that. That DC Wisteria kind of speaks for itself. It's killer.
Easy choice here.
Yeah. Moving on, 7-10 seed. Always a good matchup. We have the 7 seed March 5th Nashville Echo of a Rose going up against the 10 seed December 16th Goosemas Rockdale closer from night one. Broomfield. That's right. Good matchup as well. Two great moments. I think this Echo, and I'm kind of still undecided on. Echo, very, very good quality. They kind of do the breakdown. Ben sort of leading it as the band builds to a nice, beautiful, triumphant peak with a lot of wonderful, good melody. Rockdale, another one we were highlighting, obviously the strength of the song, from Cleveland, and this was another version that brought something different, brought something a little more unique. Was a very convincing song for me. I'm still sitting on the fence here a bit. I picked Rockdale right now, but I know if I go A/B again, I might lean Echo just for some of that quality. But yeah, what do you guys think?
So I think if I go by my own rankings, then this is Echo in a landslide. I think this Echo should be a 4 seed, maybe a 5 seed, and the Rockdale I've got lower, probably a 12 seed.
It's a crowdsourced Rockdale
Yeah,
winner
I mean
potentially.
the
That's the thing.
Rockdale's, yeah,
For
it's
sure.
Yeah.
similar to the Goose Miss Drive, in
Yeah.
that sense too. I like the Rockdale more than the Drive, but similar type of thing. I mean, if we're talking about a lot of improv, I mean
It's Echo
it's
all
not
day.
really there.
Yeah.
They hook into some fun stuff, and it's nice and heavy. And by the way, this is another one of those tracks. Just because Nug says it's as long as it is, chop about 5 minutes off. This is not very long, and there's not a whole lot going on. So this will be one that I don't think Echo should have a problem. If people are listening to these jams and truly saying to themselves, which is the better example of a high quality improvisational jam, then it's Echo Rose, and it's not even close.
I was an easy Echo here as well.
Yeah, Rockdale didn't make my bracket. I realized as I
love
said that.
Rockdale too.
I
It
love
was-
the Rockdale and the Crazy Train, but yeah, this Echo is
the
just
seatings.
a monster. I know.
It is.
B
That's
has
a cool
been-
moment, right? That's a
B's
cool
been
little-
loving this jam the whole year.
It's
Me too. I mean, I've had this one ranked
Second best
in the
one of the
teens
year, for
like
sure.
all year, and I mean, we're talking about a Crazy Train tease against a very killer jam, and
Beautiful.
it's pretty simple for me. Although I did really enjoy the hell out of this Rocktail at the show.
Yeah.
It was
Love Randy
killer. It
Rhoads.
was super fun.
Yeah, we
but
did.
It, yeah, man, I was ripping it up in that one.
First row Peter side, baby.
Yep.
Forever. All right. And moving into the last matchup of 15-2, we have the February 2nd Madhavan that was mentioned earlier that follows the No Rain. Then the 2 seed, which is the August 17th Dylan Bourne.
The Bourne sing-along.
Bourne sing-along. Another favorite moment of the year, actually, if I think about Bourne. I recall having a picture, having rushed to the restroom, got a couple friends in the background, overlooking the crowd. It's a beautiful jam. This is definitely the my favorite Bourne of the year. Madhavan is not a slouch. I think this Bourne got propped up a little bit by the crowd sourcing. For me, it's probably more of a 4 ish, 3-4, but great version. It's sort of, this Bourne, I think, encapsulated a lot of the differing versions that we saw throughout the year. We saw sort of a little bit of the synth build, the slow build, the 2001 jam. This kind of had it all, but yeah, it's Bourne for me all day.
Yeah, I agree with you that I would have had Bourne at a 4. And Bourne will win here, and it's the goat Bourne. It's a really awesome jam. I mean, and another kind of real, kind of high energy jam most of the way throughout. The unfortunate thing here is that this Ben Madhavan should have been seated a lot higher, or at least up to like a 10 or a 9 at least. So kind of a bummer that it's going to run into this Bourne so early, but I really like this Madhavan. I think it's probably probably have it as my third Madhavan of the year. So yeah, kind of bummed to see this one get knocked out early, but that's likely what's going to happen.
Yeah, if people listen to all of this, the No Rain Madhavan might be some of my favorite 45 minutes of the year, just back to back. There's not much missing throughout those 2 songs. So it's true, but it's going to lose to this Bourne.
I just want to echo what Daniel said there, which is that No Rain that we already talked about in this Madhavan, we're back to back, and wow, what a killer show, or what a killer section of music, right? But yeah, this Bourne is pretty special. I think the entirety of Goose Twitter was at this show, except for me and Ryan, I think, right? But my brother did send me a video of, the other cool thing about this is that the sun was setting as they were playing this jam, like over the mountains in this amazingly beautiful venue. So I could see how there are multiple aspects of attendance bias that would kind of prop the song up, and doesn't need much more propping up because it's a killer song.
Because it's good.
Yeah. I mean, this jam's great. And in terms of Bourne's, it's the GOAT. and I think it's one of two Borns that I really, really love from this year. The other being the Neptune Born. And yeah, I mean, that's all there is to say about that. I mean, this one moves on easily against a jam that is very, very, very good.
Listen to the jams.
Listen to him.
Listen to the jams. I definitely regret removing this Madhavan from my top 64, much like the Dark Horse. We talked about the Minneapolis Dark Horse. Those are two jams that I kind of had on my list for a while, and I think I was higher on the Madhavan earlier in the year, and then I kind of around early fall I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's kind of run of the mill, whatever, and removed it. And I wish I had gone back to it more in the last few weeks when I had finalized my rankings. I definitely think that and the Dark Horse both would have made my list if I had been a little bit more selective. So, hindsight is 2020, as we all know. But
Jive Sight is 2020.
Jive Sight is 2020. We know.
Jive Hunger Sight.
Trust in the Jive Goose. He's always right, etc. But this Born wins here, gets through a couple of rounds, loses to the DC Wisteria, which then loses to Pittsburgh.
Jesus Christ.
But we got one region left.
All right, last region, we have the Forest region. And the very first matchup, we have the 615 Red Hat Madhavan versus the October 11th Wisteria Lane. And this is a fascinating matchup, actually, because I really do like this Wisteria Lane. But this Madhavan, more than any other song that I think exists in this bracket, embodies the jamming styles that Goose has adopted this year that have really hit well. It has a significant Bliss segment that I think we saw a bunch in fall, which kind of brought a whole bunch of jams into the fall bracket when we think about Dripfield and we think about Rosewood and Pancakes. But it also has a significant section of darkness to it. And yeah, absolutely killer jam. And this Wisteria Lane is really interesting too, because it has a really awesome section of Rick trading off between leads and solos, or not leads and solos. I'm sorry, like playing like a few rhythm notes and then like ripping off a solo, a few rhythm notes, ripping off a solo. And it's unique and really, really cool. So I kind of enjoy this one a lot. Like, without a doubt, this Madhavan moves on. This is my number 2 ranked jam, or not Madhavan.
You're right.
Madhavan.
You're right.
Well, I mean, when you get to this point in the bracket and you talk about Madhavan and you talk about Wisteria and All I Need,
you're right. It's like which version is
holy
this?
Shit. Yes, this Madhavan is absolutely amazing. It's my number 2 ranked jam of the year, and it's so good. The Raleigh Madhavan is, it's going to be one that I listen to for years and years and years after this, regardless of what happens with everything in the world.
Goat.
It is.
It's the GOAT Madhavan. So, tough matchup for this Wisteria, which I also really like a lot. But, I mean, it's not even close.
The other 5 Wisterias will make up.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be much opposition to that opinion or that prediction. I do feel a little bit for this Wisteria, though. I mean, I like it. It's the Nash Bird that it reminds me of, with Rick, hitting those chords and then throwing the runs in between and kind of continuing to go back and forth on that. I think it's a little bit more triumphant in the Nash Bird. But I do like that element to this Wisteria. A little bit surprised that it's as low as a 16, but at the end of the day, this Madhavan's gonna roll on through.
You guys give me some shit for my picks sometimes, especially B.
Never.
But leaving this Wisteria out of my top 64 entirely was kind of a misstep for me. I think definitely. I went back and listened to it the other day, and I was like, what was I thinking? I remember when it was played in October, being like, it's not great. I'm not, I don't know if it needs a spot in there, but it definitely does. Obviously, it falls to the Madhavan here. We get more of this 2-guitar attack through this like churning, like heavy jam that they get to in the initial, portion of it, and then we get this triumphant, again, Peter on keys triumph throughout the second half. So just really incredible stuff. As it's been mentioned, the GOAT, 100%. So 116 again. As good as this Wisteria is, and as much as I wish I had put it in my rankings, it doesn't have a prayer here.
This Wisteria is a weird one. I think I had it halfway through my bracket or seedings at 32. There is an element, and I don't like to use this comparison a lot with this band, but this Madhuvan, it's my number 2 of the year as well. As much as I love it, this has sort of that Humphreys element. I mean, Kev can probably lean on it. It's just the tempo, kind of the key, like sort of I think it was Neal was talking about it, kind of Rick. Yeah, he sort of hits the rhythm and then just
it goes metal, man. It goes metal.
Yeah, he just digs
for a
in.
couple minutes.
And it has. This is another one. When I put this on, like I find myself, if I'm walking the dogs, like literally moving my whole body is just it just takes over.
The dogs are like, slow down, D.
Running and dancing. So yeah, this Madhuvan is gonna go far for me in this bracket. So yeah, it's a clear winner.
Same for me. I actually listened to this one today, and you hit the nail on the head, D. Like I was immediately like, man, this is some metal shit. I need to listen to this more. It's a great Madhuvan, and it deserves its position where it is, and it easily wins this round.
Right on. All right. So I'm actually like super stoked that I get to do this region because I get to talk about this 8-9 matchup, which I love for so many, many reasons. So we have the Philly Redbird matched up against the Cleveland Tumble. And the really cool part about this, right? Like when we talk about these two shows, aside from the jams, when we talk about these two shows, we talk about the bookends and the sets in these shows. And these are both bookend jams from each of these shows. One, in my opinion, is much better than the other. I like the Tumble over this Redbird. But yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that these are matched up against each other. I think it's exciting. I think it generates conversation about these shows and those bookends. And yeah, I mean, it's a monster Tumble. It might not be my favorite Tumble of the year. But it's really, really good. Same thing with that Redbird. Not even close to my favorite Redbird of the year, but also very, very good. But I just love that they're matched up against each other.
Two of our favorite, I mean, show-wise too. I think
man.
that kind of this, like you said, maybe the bookending, the elements of
Cleveland and
completing
Philly.
sets, Cleveland and Philly, 2 shows, 3 days or 2 days apart. Obviously, I mean, one show in between just spoke to the quality that they were putting out during this time, and they're 8-9s, which is great. That just speaks to. I have Tumble here as well. I was at Philly, which just proves there is never attendance bias in our bracket picks. Anyways,
99% of the times.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a really fun matchup, and it's a close matchup. Maybe I don't think it's 8-9. I think it's 13-15 close. I don't really rate this Tumble, very high at all. It's good. I only have 2 Tumbles in my 64, so it is what it is. And this Redbird, in terms of just the Redbird list, let's see, I guess this is my number 4 Redbird. So, it's kind of down there a little bit too. I feel like both of these jams suffer from a lack of like just something really big, a couple minutes of something triumphant or, super blissy or dark. They kind of both just go for a while. I probably prefer the Redbird out of the 2, so that's what I'll pick.
The Tumble for me is interesting because it's a show opening version. They come out of the gate with this 29-minute almost Tumble, and this feels just like a super exploratory version to me. I don't know if they discussed it backstage. We're like, we're gonna take this for a while. Like we're in no hurry to go anywhere here. And it's interesting because they get into this very lengthy, we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Royal Oak Rosewood, but they get into this lengthy creaturesy jam because of what Peter's doing on the guitar. He's using that delay. He's playing that creatures riff. And it's just this jam just feels like super long, like vast, if you will,
Thick.
exploratory in certain ways, but without a purpose. So it's good. I have it beating the Redbird here. I quite enjoy this jam. The segue into novels is out of it is great. But I agree with you, B. It's not. It lacks a wow factor. It's really good throughout its runtime. It makes use of its 29 minutes a lot more than a lot of 29 minutes that Goose has been playing in 2022. But it lacks that punch. It lacks that like last few minutes or a segment in it that really blows the mind, that really wows, something like the Legend Valley Creatures has, or the Goosemas Drive, where there's, it's not the whole jam, it's that last segment. And so the whole jam is pretty good, but it lacks the great element.
Yeah, I preferred the Bird here. Like y'all said, it's it's kind of a coin toss in terms of a preference and what you liked. Yeah, air that shirt out, Rye.
I'm wearing the shirt.
Yeah,
He's ready to roll the sleeves up again. Get ready.
Yeah.
Oh well, I don't know if that's happening again.
All right, so let's talk about that next matchup here. So we have a 5-12 matchup, and we have the Bozeman All I Need.
Yes.
And the
Vegas sleeves are getting rolled up.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was going to say you're going to get stoked about this one. And the Las Vegas Earthling or Alien, August 20th, and I like both of these jams a lot. I like Bozeman a lot better. I love the Bozeman show in particular. Yeah. I mean, beginning to end, there's so much good stuff to love about that show. End. But this All I Need showed a lot of creativity. I think it showed that they came to Bozeman to play, and this one was absolutely killer. And like probably not even my favorite thing they did in Bozeman, believe it or not. And that's debatable, right? So there's another jam from Bozeman that is pretty well known and pretty fantastic. But cool thing about this Vegas Earthling or Alien is we were talking about Wisteria from Vermont earlier, where it had the beginning of Thatch. This Earthling or Alien has the body of Thatch in it. And it's fascinating that these things...
I thought it was the Chrysalis one.
Oh, it's the Chrysalis one. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Yeah.
Fucking Neal.
Too many Earthling or Aliens. Yeah, thanks for that. Well, in any case, I digress. Ryan, you seem really eager to talk about this.
Yes.
That's All I Need. Let's go.
Okay. I don't know how this Bozeman All I Need ended up as a 5 seed. I'm guessing it's played in February syndrome. I think if this jam was played at Goosemas or during Taboos, this would be a little bit higher for me. I think I had it ranked at a 2 seed in my bracket. I absolutely love this jam. I've been saying since February, this feels like one of the big fall 2019 All I Needs played with the maturity of the 2022 band. This jam is amazing. The first jam, just similar theme to the Cleveland Rockdale, actually, where it's just like the triumphant, they're going through this progression. It's just amazing. And then the second jam, they get into this, they stick with the groove. There are multiple different occasions where they go into the Ghostbusters rap tease, which is fun. Peter's using the clav with the delay pedal, which is a really cool effect that he was using a bunch in February, March, that he kind of stopped using throughout the year. But I adore this jam. I think it easily beats the Vegas Earthling here. The Vegas Earthling, though, is very good. I don't think it's as good as some people say it is, but I think it's good. Rick gets into some interesting shred here. This is Sunglasses Rick, by the way, that we saw in Vegas. Don't mess with the sunglasses, Rick. But Bozeman All I Need is a force to be reckoned with. I agree with Neal. This show is incredible. It's amazing. Gonna roll my sleeves back down, pass it off.
Yeah. Goose loves Montana.
Yeah, all I'll add is that it's All I Need, and yeah, it should be at least a 3 seed, and Earthling or Alien should be on the outside looking in, and we should have something else in here.
But we appreciate the people that send in their seedings, and we encourage even more people to do it next year.
Yes.
That's the point we're supposed to take from that. That's
Yep.
all I need all day.
All right, then. Let's talk about the next one. This is an interesting matchup. We have the 10-7 Pancakes versus the Regency Ballroom San Francisco Empress of Organos. And this
That's
is
that's a 4 seed versus a 13.
4-13. That's right. And I love this pancake so much. I mean, I come back to this one a lot just because when we've talked about it a bunch already. When we talk about the gorgeous jams that kind of popped up in Fall Tour, this is the one. This is the one that stands head and shoulders above the rest, in my opinion. And the thing that Rick does, I think, Jive, you were kind of like calling it like a finger picking thing at one point, but wherever he starts that whole jam off with that thing that he's doing, it sounds just so beautiful, and I love it so much. I actually didn't have this Empress of Organos in my seedings, but I know a couple of you guys did, so I will definitely let you guys talk about that jam.
Yeah, I think I think that I think that people got these both pretty much right. I mean, this pancakes is really good, and I guess maybe I'm a little surprised that people have it as high as they do, but that's where I would have it as well. So, good job by everybody on that one. And yeah, I have this Empress in my 64. It's pretty low. I think maybe I even had it as a 15 seed, but it's the only Empress in my 64. I'm pretty sure it's the only Empress in the bracket, and it's worthy of being there. It is quite good. It's probably my favorite Empress. Really nice Trevor bass jam, and yeah, they kind of take their time with this one a little bit more, and I think maybe that pays off for me. So, but at the end of the day, yeah, I agree with you, Neal. I also really love this pancakes, and it moves on here easily.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Empress of Organos is that I'm really surprised that we don't have like a half dozen in the bracket this year, like we did last year.
Last year,
Heyo.
I think like a shout out to Ryan for not, seeding things obscenely high. So
There
we
weren't-
have
you know
multiple
what?
Empresses in our bracket.
yeah,
this
there
year.
weren't that many versions.
You know what? I feel like last year the hype was all around the Empresses. I think if they played a number of the Empresses that I seeded in the bracket last year in 2022, they wouldn't have made it. I think the Perry
Evolved
one
styles.
still definitely would have.
Evolved styles.
Obviously evolved styles, but yeah.
The Perry,
This is the sole Empress representation. And I mean, the song's still amazing.
It's
Shout out
amazing
to-
song. Yeah, I'm
Shout out
stoked
to
that
the
it's
2022 Empress when I nearly sent Neal to the hospital at Goosemas in February.
yeah, that was also played this year. Did not make the bracket.
No,
Did
it
not.
was good. It was good.
All right, we're plowing
Cakes, pancakes.
through. All right,
Let's talk about more pancakes.
let's talk about more
More
pancakes.
pancakes.
I mean, I can talk about pancakes all day. We should do just like a podcast where we just talk about the stack.
pancakes.
Pancakes, ranking the stack.
Stacks on
Podcast
stacks
episode
on
coming
stacks.
soon.
Yeah. So, all right, here we go. And this is a big one, right? This matchup. Well, one part of this matchup is going to be a thing that we're going to talk about a bunch, and that is the Radio City 625 Hunger Site 6 seed. Yeah, man, 6 seed, and it actually feels right. It's appropriately seeded, in my opinion, versus the 11 seed Goose Miss Pancakes, which I really loved, and I hasty
No
ranked the
shit.
hell out of that the night
So
after.
for those of you
Well-
who may be curious, after the show on Goosemas, Neal walked away saying that Pancakes was second only to the San Francisco Wisteria in the whole year.
Well, part of that was me fucking with you, but
No, don't try to cover it up here, Mike.
but I was
Go
really
on.
stoked on that Pancakes. I had a hell of a time at that show. Really
we
enjoyed that
did.
Pancakes. I think what grabbed me about that Pancakes was Rick's new tone, which we somehow have made it like
The
roughly
swagger.
2.5 hours into this podcast and haven't really talked about it much. And then also Rick's new approach, which shows up big
Swagger.
time in this Pancakes. Yeah. I mean, he did a couple things where like he kind of like stepped on his wah pedal in this and just, I don't know, like let out a note and just kind of looked like a monster up there with like an ego that he did not typically have for as long as I've been paying attention to this band.
He's
Yeah,
starting
that
to
that was the
believe.
moment. That was the moment when one of us turned to each other and we were like, "Rick's been listening to some Fall 97 Fish here."
Yeah. Hey, and like that's why it's awesome that it's matched up against the Radio City Hunger Site, which I
Yeah.
think it's not the jam of the year, but it's
No.
probably the most important song of all of 2022 is this Hunger
Ooh,
Site.
interesting.
And I mean, for obvious reasons,
Old
right? It's
home.
the one where they blew the doors off with Trey, and it changed the course of everything with this band. And I think it's such a significant version of this song. It's not the best Hunger Site they played this year. We've already talked about that, but it's notable. It is historic. It is a milestone in the career of this band, and I think it easily beats this Pancakes, but two really killer versions of songs. This hunger site moves on easily. I worry about how far this hunger site's going to go because I don't know if it deserves to go much farther. But folks really dig this song and this jam, and just the notes of Trey playing that hunger site solo. I'm going
Yeah.
to hear
The
in my
first couple
brain
notes.
for the
Yeah.
rest of my life. Like I
To,
swear to
to
God.
what you're saying, Neil, man, I was just going to say, is there anybody that looks at, like, on paper, like our nerdy selves, like Hunger Site 625, and immediately you hear those first couple solo notes from Trey?
Yeah, like that
Yeah,
needs to be
like
my
Like, they're
ringtone or my
immediately in your
on.
phone.
head.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we all actually had this hunger site more as like a 10 seed at best. Um, so, yeah, I think this matchup is definitely closer than it appears. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the hunger site goes through here. I think it is the Trey factor, and you make a good point, Neil, about just um, just the weight and the importance of this song. And so I think a lot of people that were I'd be willing to bet anybody who's going to be voting on Twitter for this matchup and was at Radio City, they're going to pick this hunger side. I mean,
For sure.
it's
Mhm.
Yeah, I was there and I'll be picking it, but it is a little slightly uh propped up, I think is a good way to put it, by the moment. But yeah, as Neil said, that was pretty, I mean, distinct. It we have been talking about kind of the first half of the year versus the second. You look at this moment, conspiracy theories may rise, whether the jamming styles that came later off of the moments with Trey. No, I don't have any of those. But yeah, this was a quite a sweet night. One of my favorite shows of the year, just in terms of a personal attendance, quality wise aside. But and it's gonna beat the Pancakes. But yeah,
Just for the record, a sweet night, not to be confused with a sweet night like our good friend B had at Goosemas. Just want to clarify
like
that there.
Sweet D.
Sweet life.
yeah. D was living the sweet life also.
One of the nights. One of the nights.
Yep. B.
At
Yeah, that's
Goosemas.
true. He was double
But
sweet.
this matchup, yeah, the Trey bias definitely plays a factor here, but also this hunger site is a fantastic jam. There's a really great segment where Trevor takes the lead in the middle of it. It's this typical, very driving, propulsive hunger site jam that we've seen a lot more since this Radio City version. But there's one part where Trevor really takes the lead in it that really I love. And this jam makes it through this round for me, falls in the next round. But I did want to talk about the Pancakes as well, which is an exceptional version. But as I mentioned, almost 2 hours ago now, or over 2 hours ago now, depending on how this shakes out, the DC Pancakes is a very similar jam and one that I think does it a little bit better than Goosemas. They even have like a very, very similar breakdown in it. So I don't know how I feel about this jam being seeded. It's only one seed higher than DC, but I feel like they're very similar, and that DC would deserve the higher spot. But that's just me.
Okay then. So now we have the 3 seed Chrysalis Earthlinger Alien, August 13th, versus the 14 seed February 3rd Rosewood Heart Wonder Ballroom. And this is a fascinating matchup too, because I think that Rosewood was kind of lingering pretty high on my list early on in the year when we were ranking stuff, and is definitely very, very good version. But this Earthling or Alien is spectacular. I mean, they went to Chrysalis and really embraced the venue and played the weirdest shit imaginable. And this Earthling or Alien is that. I mean, it was like a full on alien abduction, just a killer version of this song. And as you pointed out earlier, which I misspoke about, like my Earthling or Aliens, I think this is the version where they were playing a little bit of Thatch in it. So they were definitely thinking about Thatch that time of year. You know, whether we're talking about the VT Wisteria in June, and then 2 months later at Chrysalis. But a killer version, and probably the best version of Earthling or Alien they played to date. And this is the one where they kind of slapped it on the table and they were like, you know what? This song is a jam vehicle. And I think some people were really bummed out about that. Some people might be shaking their heads right now as I'm speaking.
What did they slap on the table, Neal?
They slapped on the table that this song is capable of being a jam vehicle.
Oh,
Almost
And
10
and I
pounds.
think a lot of people think of it as like a
10
throwaway
pounds of
song, like
Earthling
a
or
dancer, or like just kind of like a
A lot of people are Brian.
yeah. I don't know. I'll let you guys speak about this one. Though.
Many
Go
people
ahead.
are saying.
Oh, I'm definitely not the only one. But yeah, I mean, this
Guy's got opinions.
Yeah, this is a cool jam. I don't know. It's I've never really loved it though, to be honest. It has some very cool moments for sure. As a whole, it's just not doesn't do as much for me as a lot of the other stuff that we've talked about tonight. But yeah, I mean, it wins here. I think that this I think that as much as I might think that this Earthling is overrated, I probably would also, say that this Rosewood is underrated.
Yep.
But so it might be close, but Earthling will win it.
Yeah, Earthling's gonna win it for sure. It was you were mentioning, Neil, maybe that they obviously had Thatch on the mind. I know they sound checked Thatch night 2 of Dylan we were walking in. I recall
Oh,
it now.
really?
Yeah, that was so definitely 100%
But they said it was
recall.
2 days old.
No, I know. I recall us walking to the line at 3:30 or so, and like kind of this funky different jam. So anyways, Earthling all day here for me. Very different, unique for the song, which I like. I have it a little lower as well. And yeah, that's my thoughts.
It's a really good Earthling, and the second time throughout the year that Rick popping a string led to them going into a very different jam. You know, the other one being the Louisville Indian River, where he popped a string during that, and it led them into this dark and spacey motif that eventually went into Dr. Darkness. But yeah, no, this is a great Earthling. Definitely the GOAT. Beats the Hunger Site in the second round for me for sure, but then falls to a jam that we will get to in a couple of matchups.
So conspiracy theories abound. Thatch has been alive for a very long time.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, I think it has.
2 days, my ass.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So now we have
to look forward to.
A 7-10 matchup. We have the Dylan Wisteria against the March 4th Rockdale from Nashville, and this one's a little bit controversial.
One.
What?
The other 25-minute one.
The other 25-minute version, and I think this is polarizing a little bit. People have opinions about this, about whether or not the Nashville Rockdale really should be included in all of this. But
I feel like it's only polarizing in our group, though.
yeah, maybe. I do like this Nashville Rockdale. I think it deserves to be in the bracket. It's nowhere near what the Cleveland Rockdale did, but this one still crushes. It's really, really good. And Dylan Wisteria, I don't know. You guys are at Dylan. Like, I mean, you can talk about it. I don't know if it's deserving of the seed that it has in this bracket, but I think there's like a definite Dylan Colorado bias in this bracket. There's a bunch of jams that are like kind of pumped up and put a little bit higher than I think they deserve to be. And I think they knocked out some jams that I think are really, really good. We're talking about this Wisteria here. We can also talk about the Western Sun. But I don't know. For me, though, in this matchup, I don't know who I have moving on from here. I mean, it's Wisteria moving on from here. I think that Rockdale is really cool, but the Wisteria offers more. So go ahead, Jive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that just really love this Rockdale. I thought it was going to come in higher, actually. But yeah, I have it pretty low. And I also agree on the Wisteria. This Wisteria might get a little bit overrated. And there's just so many good Wisterias. But Wisteria will win here, though.
Ted, what do you got?
I actually took the Rockdale here. As a Rockdale aficionado, again, I think Wisteria is very, very represented. I don't want to say overrepresented in the bracket here. And I like this Rockdale. I go back to this one too. It's a different feel. It's not as good as the Cleveland one, but I prefer it over this Wisteria one for sure.
All right, then. So, final matchup of the whole entire bracket. We've made it here.
Wow.
We're under 3 hours.
Look at us.
We should feel really excited about that.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a 15 seed, Radio City 625 Redbird, versus a 2 seed, Bozeman, Montana, February 7th, This Old Sea. And I can talk about This Old Sea forever.
Yeah,
Because I absolutely
I'm a
This
seaman here.
specific old sea.
this specific This Old Sea.
Just to clarify.
Well,
Big seaman here.
Yeah, I mean they've played very different versions of this song over the years. I think about like Floyd Fest last year, where it was like a giant funk jam, and then you think about this one, and it's just got so
South
many
Farm,
sections
too.
to it, and it's just
Yeah.
it's like evil and scary, and like which is weird to like juxtapose like that kind of like jam with This Old Sea as a song.
Yeah.
And also like weird like personal note. When we were in Montana, I met a couple, Sam and Sasa, which maybe a couple of you guys also met there. They got engaged during this song, which is really adorable story. And this
They
match
get
is up
engaged
against,
during the song or like the siren jam.
I think during the song itself, not during the siren
Okay.
jam. I don't know if anybody would pick that siren jam for like.
You know what? You hear that going, it's like, yeah, you know what? This is what I'm gonna propose to you right now. As Peter is like, calling the cops, as Rick is just hammering like the dark chords, like, yeah, that's the moment.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so much to kind of unpack when you talk about Bozeman, This Old Sea, but this is one that I love, and I loved it since I heard it the first time. I kind of stack it up there with the San Francisco Wisteria, with like I've just been in love with it since the moment I heard it for the first time. And this is not one that we got a chance to hear, right? This was like after the fact we got to listen to this one because it wasn't streamed. So yeah, man, love everything about this Bozeman show. Love This Old Sea. This Redbird, I have no idea why it's here. And maybe you guys have ideas. But I don't know what sets us apart from other Redbirds.
I mean, it's solid, but it's about the sea. This was actually my number one jam of the year for a few days in February. Pretty much right after the odds came out, I remember listening to this jam and just being on the floor, blown away by it. And it was my number one for a few days before I kind of was like, okay, like let's eliminate the recency bias here and put the San Francisco Wisteria back on top. But this jam, you get that beautiful This Old Sea jam to start, and then around the 12-minute mark, it starts to like splinter into this darker motif. They start hitting onto like the this nice like this repeating pattern of notes. Peter's on the vibe, Rick's just playing guitar as he does, and then Peter starts throwing in these sirens, which I then learned were just like the glide, if you will. Any keyboard nerds out there, he's playing one note and then he's playing the same note a couple octaves lower, and he's using the glide feature on the synth, which basically means that he plays one note and then he plays the other, and instead of going directly to the other note, the first note passes through every other note on the way to the lower note and then the higher note again. So it gives the impression of a siren or like a more circular sound for any of those music nerds out there.
That was cool.
But
Right, I'll take that.
yeah, and then when he comes in on the organ through, like, it's just, this jam is amazing. And then we get another little dose of the bliss at the end. It's just spectacular.
See all day.
We're roasting you in the chat, right?
Yes, thank you, Ken. I could see.
Do you want me to screenshot it and text it to you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this Redbird, I agree. It's very pretty. I do remember, and this is another version though, that like Pretty Bird, Peter got to use the full Baby Grand that night, which was really cool. I'm not sure if he used it night one too. Did he?
Yes,
also?
he did. Both
did,
nights
okay.
of Radio City hit.
Both
it.
nights.
An actual
nights.
grand, not a baby grand.
Yeah,
Not a baby
jumping in
grand.
before Ryan
sorry.
does.
Do not.
It's a grand.
Do not hate.
Full Grand, which was great. That I honestly hadn't even like thought about that until kind of then. I maybe watched some of the stuff. Anyways, it's pretty, but this old C is a dirty dark one, and she's gonna win.
You're a seaman too.
Yeah. Yep. See all day. Let's go eat.
Are we not doing the one
Yeah.
thing we're grateful for and one thing we hope
Well,
to see?
I think before we wrap up this episode, obviously, does anyone have anyone other than the San Fran Wisteria winning the whole thing?
Nope.
I'm throwing speculation to the win here, and
Do it.
The Cleveland Rockdale.
Kev's going for it. B?
I'm goosing it.
Are you just talking about my picks? Yeah, Wisteria.
You got the San Fran Wisteria. I think that's our mostly consensus, except for Kev. Kev's going for the wild card pick.
And that's a bracket aspirational pick. For
Yes,
sure.
we are so excited for it to be bracket season once again. Thank you, everybody who has listened to this entire episode. It's been long. We are just cracking the 3-hour mark on the recording here. It might be a little bit shorter for you guys listening at home, but we appreciate anybody who's made it to this point. We thank all of our people who got involved in the seeding process. We thank everybody who's going to get involved in the future in both the bracket challenge and the voting for the whole thing. We love all of you. We love the community. We love Goose. That's why we're here. We love everyone, Kev. You know what? It's all love. Okay? We love everyone. If they're hearing this part right now, like 2.5 or more than 2.5 hours into this podcast,
Then we definitely love you. Yes,
we definitely love you.
Yeah.
If you're hearing this right now,
every single one of you,
I love you.
We love.
Yeah. But to Kev's point, there are some people out there that I don't love. I mean, you know what I mean?
Festivus.
But they're not listening still, or at all.
So I think now would be a good time.
Here,
Go ahead, babe.
That would be a good time to what, Neal?
Apologize in advance to at 92 Vickers. Sorry.
No apologies, and it's a good time to remind people
Yeah.
that if you had any sort of issue with any of the content in the show, that you should DM 902 Vickers on Twitter, and he will address your concerns properly.
We would like to extend love to 902 Vickers for graciously volunteering to be our complaint hotline.
Being paid in
/
mushrooms.
HR. That's why he's our HR. B.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely very much.
Potent fruiting bodies.
Yeah.
Well, potent fruiting bodies aside, we would like to thank everybody for making it this far into the podcast, getting involved. As I just said, thank you to Osiris Media for being awesome, and having us as a part of their awesome network. But man, this has been fun. Our longest episode of the year. We'll see. Maybe we'll push 4 hours for next year's bracket episode.
We can hope. We can plan.
We can only try. I mean, let's hope there's enough jams where it's just controversial enough where we just talk about it forever.
Hell yeah! Listen, we begin our playlists anew in a week.
It's a 96 seed tournament next year, folks. Get ready.
Yeah.
Kev is wrong. We're not doing more than 64, just in case anyone gets worried. But we get to begin our 2023 playlist next week as Goose plays Playing in the Sand with Dead and Company. If anyone is hearing this before that show and is going to be in Mexico and would like to be on our day after show live on Monday the 16th, please let us know on socials. But if you're listening to this sometime in the future, we are live every day after every single Goose concert at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Check us out. Come tune in. If you're going to shows, let us know if you would like to be a guest on, because we want people from the community. We want you on. We want to hear from you about your experiences at the show, what you thought was great, regardless of whether Brian agrees with you or not, even though he will harbor grudges forever based on what jams
You'll
you
make
prefer.
it on the spreadsheet.
Yes, you might be on his spreadsheet of untrustworthy jam rankers. You never know. But anyway, we're just rambling. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to this episode of Always Almost There. It's been a pleasure. We may not have another full length for a little while.
That's true.
But it's bracket season, baby. It's bracket season.
We'll see you late spring.
See you. Our next big one will be in late spring, won't it? Oh man. Well, we'll see you for some lives soon.
Don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote. Listen to the matchups. And once again, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Always Almost There. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.
Love y'all.
Yep.
Peace.